Hello! Hello to you, our wonderful people. Greetings and welcome, bravest citizens of our new world. This is Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terwa, just playing along. Ah, yes, good. All the widgets that I had set up originally have since failed. Yeah, cool. Neat. Well, I'll just have to fix that, I suppose, at a later time. Everything was working, and then it just decided to stop working. I don't know why.
Shh.
Yeah. Anyways, but hello everybody, and welcome. We are playing ourselves some D&D today. We've got ourselves a lovely bunch of people as we are beginning our monster campaign, The Chronicles of Autumeth. We are joined, I'm just going to go on down a list here. We are joined by ArticulateT.
Hello.
We are joined by D20Love, Cassie Chu.
Hi.
We got J-Nerd here with us.
Hello.
Hello, and we've got SassElf.
Hello, my lovelies.
And we've got ourselves as well a Steve the Seregios.
Boy.
And we've got a ninja with a soul patch. Jesus Christ, is that what you're going to sound like the entire time we're doing this?
Never, of course not.
Hello, everyone. 'Tis I.
Woo.
Hi.
Hello.
Someone had to not be serious during their intro, and goddammit, it's going to be me.
I mean, I wasn't that serious.
I have great experience with this, Steve. Yes.
No. Hey. You don't cheat on me with the outside world of the things that happen in our D&D campaign. You don't have rights to tell people this information.
Anyway,
They can tune in. They can tune into Artie's streams to find out all about that.
Find out more at our ridiculousness things. So we're going to go here, and we're going to just make that cool. All right, there we go.
Steve, the immature Brit always.
Save settings. There we go. That was a faster fix than I thought it was going to be. Excellent. All right, that can just shoosh and go away. Thank God. All right, there we go. I fixed it. Wonderful. We got 22 people, and hello everyone. So, I will be your DM, Dr. Terwa, aka Colin Macbeth, and we are just going to go through a quick sort of description of some of the things that are going on here in the wonderful wild world of Whitewater Rapids, Grand Michigan.
What a reference. Oh, we are out of the gates.
Yeah, we are out of the gates, ladies and gentlemen.
and so it begins.
So let's give you lovely people a quick rundown of the world that we live in here. So in the realm of Autumeth, there's a vast continent known as Emeron. An empire on this continent takes shape. The great empire of light Brivalden, led by the elven empress Valatha Alariel, is the absolute picture of order and rule, of justice and law. But when the empire was founded a millennia ago, there was little room for other less civilized races in their world. As it began to expand, an inevitable war with the bestial hordes to the north broke out. Few remain who remember how it came to an end, and any who do speak only of the righteous victory of the Brivalden Empire. Regardless, its victory assured, the empire began to strengthen its borders and cultivate its people. It now holds the largest claim of land in the center of the Emeron continent. Some centuries later, word began to spread of a great tomb to the north. At the base of the mountains, past the monstrous waste, lay an entrance to a great undercity known as Autumeth, a necropolis that spans beneath the mountains. It seemed to have just arrived overnight. None really knew who crafted the great tomb or why. Some adventurers, curious enough of its origins and greedy for treasure, entered its great halls and either found nothing or disappeared entirely. As the next few centuries passed, some say they saw tribes of beasts, orcs, goblins, trolls, ogres, moving their villages into the tomb, vanishing behind its great stone doors, never to be seen again. The true nature of the great tomb of Autumeth is known only to those who live there. The upper levels, those closest to the entrance, are barren, enchanted to look like dead ends and abandoned tunnels that have long been since looted long ago. But just beneath that lies a military quarter, extensive forges and massive barracks garrisoned by the honored Grave Guard, skeletal warriors adorned in black and gold armor, armed with weapons of masterful quality. They never sleep or eat, and stand watch throughout Autumeth, keeping order and protecting its people. It is of worthy note that the Grave Guard carry a faint glow in their eyes, a pale blue, signifying that they are extensions of the Black King's will. Beneath the fortifications lies a massive cavern, so vast, in fact, that it contains a forest. I'll move you guys in here. Whoop. Ta-da.
Whoa.
Oh my.
Multiple
Yeah,
map
cheers.
levels, baby.
Check this fucking shit out! Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, your cue meme of Will Smith with his hands and its jock to his baby. This game.
I worked a long time building these fucking
Long
maps,
time.
so it's been a huge amount of fun.
A while.
So beneath these fortifications lies a massive cavern, so vast that it contains a forest with several lakes, wildlife with thriving green, and a ceiling of which is enchanted to appear as the sky, complete with day and night cycles, accurate star constellations. At one end of this enormous cavern lies a city. The buildings, surprisingly well hewn of stone, make up a large market, libraries, colleges, and a large amount of living accommodations. At the very edge of the city, against the walls of the cavern, is the Palace of Fallen Leaves. Seat of the King, Sotiris Black, Lord of Graves, King of Autumeth, Arch-Lich. The Black King Sotiris is not often seen, though not many have direct business with him, so his appearances are few and far between. Though the few who have made his acquaintance personally describe him as alarmingly patient and fair for a Lich. He wears ornate black robes, some silver-lined plate mail, and adorning his chest and shoulders appears to be of average human skeleton, with bones that glow that faint, pale blue. His eye sockets glow with the same flames that can be seen in the Grave Guard, and a crown of pale blue fire floats just above his skull. It is in this Undercity that you, our wonderful players, live. Either one of the tribal bestial folk that have set up their villages amongst the outer forests, or perhaps one of the more civilized people that live in the Black City proper. The culture of Autumeth, surprisingly peaceful despite its diverse populace, the laws are not all that complicated, leave each other in peace, and treat one another with honor and integrity. The Grave Guard mostly enforce these laws and keep the peace, though there are wardens and other hunters which are employed by some of the other races that live here. Those found breaking the laws in severity may find themselves sentenced to a time as lightless, where the individual is sentenced to a term of undeath. However, they are not granted control of their body during this time, their souls trapped within a rotting husk until their sentence is fulfilled. They are called lightless because when an undead is created with the victim's soul still trapped inside, there is no light in the eyes. This is seen as a disgrace by this culture. When someone becomes lightless, it is not a sentence that is administered liberally or without restraint and consideration. There are no civilized peoples, more or less, within the Undercity, no humans or elves, no dwarves or halflings. However, there are some greater undead that used to be of those people who live in the city. Those who have been granted the gift of undeath while allowed to maintain the freedom of their mind is a position of respect, much akin to a noble house, but not of that standing, mind you. At first, many of these tribes of differing people were uneasy about living with the undead, but as the centuries passed and generations folded over, it became just a part of everyday life for them. There's still some who find it uneasy, and others who have a dislike for certain races, but all in all, the peace is kept. And it certainly beats the alternative of living above the surface under the prey of the Empire. All who live within Autumeth are rescued at some point or invited to come and live within the Undercity by agents of the Black King before the Empire of Revalden could purge them from the surface. So while some tribes and peoples within the city may have issues with one another, they are still largely grateful for the safety that Autumeth brings. And to this, we introduce you, our wonderful people. And hello to you, the chat. We got lovely people here. We got Mace, Willow Grey, we got Lillian Warpath, we got Hatter is here, Volsar is here, Kara the Volcano Shark, Mercenary Pen, KC, Senpai has noticed you.
It's good to see that everyone is really enjoying the beginning of the book.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So just now that we got that out of the way.
No, I'm not meaning that in negative.
All good stuff.
The beginning of a book is like the best bit. Like, can people like not attest to this? Like that rush of like new everything.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Do love a good prologue. It was the worst of times. It
was the best of times. It was the bones of times. It was the bones of times.
It was the worst of times. It was the thirst of times.
Oh yeah.
Power thirst.
Power thirst.
This is entirely wonderful.
That's it. This entire campaign, it's a ruse. It's all one giant commercial for the rebranding, the relaunch.
Power thirst. Oh my goodness. So, each of the wonderful characters that we have here have been contacted by one of the first attendants of the Black King. He is a skeleton known as Benjamin Hyde. This particular skeleton, though, is based off of one of our subscribers, Biohybrid. He looks like this.
Oh,
Such a dapper man.
what a dapper gent.
He
I was about to say,
though he does not hold jewels in a lofty and menacing fashion, and does not carry a cane, he is a very polite, very well-spoken skeleton who wears very nice clothes and a top hat. And on the front of his face, for reasons unknown and through manners unexplained, he has a small curly mustache.
Why didn't you Photoshop that on?
I call him Monsieur Bones.
I like to think that he has one of those adhesive ones and it keeps falling off, so he switches to a different one when it starts falling off.
Yes. Those who know of Mr. Hyde know that he is not only one of the first attendants of the Black King, but also sort of trade rumors and how that mustache remains on his face, or why he drinks tea and where it goes when he drinks it, why his clothes get soggy. No one knows. It just kind of happens, and so you.
Some say the darkest secrets of necromancy keep that mustache on.
more or less, yeah. So it's just people are like, It's sort of one of those sort of like gossipy things that people rumor about, but nobody really gets into. But yeah, he has come and approached each of the characters individually and has invited them on a sort of job that the Black King would have for them specifically. So, an invitation has been extended to you, and if you wished to pick it up, then you were to head to a tavern that's inside the Black City known as Gray's Tavern. This is Keldaka and Willow Gray's tavern that the pair of stone trolls, Keldaka and Willow, run together with a tiny baby troll that sort of trudges about there in the tavern itself.
That's
And the
tight.
baby.
That's tight, and I love it.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm gonna cry.
the cook who, if anybody's gone to Gray's Tavern, the cook who is behind the sort of counter area, who keeps the ale running and cooks the food and chops the meat and vegetables and things like that. That's Keldaka. He's a great big stone troll, and despite his size and his gruff demeanor, he's kind enough. Like, anybody has a pretty good enough time with him. Willow, the barmaid who trudges around in the main area and serves people their food and takes orders and whatnot, will very commonly have a very small baby troll sort of crawling in and around on the top of her head through her hair, or sort of just tupping about underfoot. But yeah, for a baby, obviously, it's still pretty large because they're stone trolls. So yeah.
I was about to say it's like a beanbag.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna basically go to each of the characters, each of the players, and say like, okay, your character comes in, describe the character, and you'll find our lovely NPC here, sort of sitting in the corner. The one Benjamin Hyde, he'll be sitting at a table in the corner, and he'll sort of wave you over. And I believe we will start with a one. Let's start with Soul Patch.
Okay.
Thrown at the deep end, buddy. Good luck.
So I'm assuming that nobody else is in the tavern yet.
No, as you enter the tavern, there's like one or two random patrons. There's like a sort of forest troll over in one of the corners, and 3 goblins sitting at a table, sort of having a discussion over the size of the steins that they have there, and how they really need to start serving goblin-sized drinks. And in a table in the corner, you'll see Benjamin, and he politely waves to you and beckons you to come and sit.
So did you want me to do full description now, or when? Or when?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Just describe your character to me.
So, the mass that enters the tavern is a 6 foot tall, what could only be described as a 6 foot tall anthropomorphic alligator snapping turtle. Sort of slowly waddles its way inside. He doesn't really have any. His skin tone, including his shell, is the darkest green, what could be considered almost a shade of black in the wrong lighting. He has very beady, very, very small, beady, like very, very deep blue eyes. The wicked beak on the tip of the lower beak is a small, like salt and pepper looking goatee that sort of swirls a little bit. Otherwise, he has no hair on his head. His shell and his body, with the exception of his face, are covered in what looks like either abrasions or heavy scars. He wears lots of like wooden bangles and things around his wrists, like charms. And there's a couple of like bone-looking and wooden necklaces around his neck that are very tight to the neck. They don't make too much of a clattering. They don't clack off of his chest as he moves. Only clothes to speak of are very sturdy-looking, deep brown pants with sort of like a tattered, almost like a war skirt around it, where it's got like lots of like burlap strips that sort of cascade to about his knees. He's slightly hunched, so he's about 6 feet tall, but he's slightly hunched forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
I pulled up a picture for people so they know what you're talking about.
Excellent. Slightly hunched over.
Slowly.
He has a simple scholar's pack to one side and a couple of pouches on a belt that keeps up the tattered burlap sort of like skirt thing with over top of his pants, and he walks with a cane, a very wider at the top that goes thin to a point, a long rod that he uses to walk with. That has sort of a malachite gem that's been polished and smoothed as the top of the cane that's set into the wood, and he sort of just hobbles along. He doesn't look at anyone else but Benjamin. He seems rather perturbed that he is among people, and kind of just makes a beeline to Benjamin in a very methodical thud with his cane.
I don't know any of you.
I don't know anyone here.
He sits across from Benjamin, gives him a nod, and does not say anything.
Benjamin, very polite to his name, welcomes him as you sit down, and he goes, "Oh yes, good, excellent, good to see you, Gowl Umbrace. Please join, have a seat. The other people should be arriving relatively soon." All right, so then next,
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
Artie's character wanders in.
Oh yes.
Okay. So somewhat stumbling in, ducking slightly as he comes in through the door, is a 6'11" Minotaur.
Two absolute units.
Yeah, with this kind of fairly average considering most things, like more or less the average for a Minotaur. As his sorry, losing track of my sentence.
That's okay.
All right. So yeah. He has a shorter snout than most would expect from a Minotaur. Grey eyes. He walks in with chainmail, like full chainmail armor, though adorned with like an emblem of the City Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Hanging from his hip is a battle axe, and hanging on his back is a shield. But despite the fact that he is a Minotaur, as described by others, he is an absolute unit. His posture is rather to the contrary. It's almost as if like he's slouching slightly, trying to make himself a smaller target, and his eyes dart left to right as he scans over the room. Sees a couple of goblins, and there's a small smile to his lips as he then finds his gaze fixating back over to Benjamin and this individual who he's not met before, and there's kind of a pause in his step as he realizes that there's a stranger at the table.
Look at what you've done. You've given him anxiety.
But he steels himself. He slowly wanders over and finds a seat, probably equidistant distance from the stranger and Benjamin, and just kind of gives a nod and a nervous nod to the other guy, and just kind of remains quiet.
He locks eyes with you, and it's sort of unsettling. He doesn't really say anything. He just looks to you and then looks back to Benjamin.
Does he do like the snapping turtle thing where he's just got his mouth open and the eye just starts over like?
No, it is. His jaw is clamped shut. Like
Marta sees this. Marta sees this and attempts to retreat further into his seat.
So when you come in, Artie, when Martis comes into, like, you have to kind of duck to get in through the door. Because, I mean, 6'11" is still pretty short for a Minotaur. Like, they range between 7 and 8 feet usually.
Yeah.
But he's big for anyone else.
Yeah, he's big for everybody else. As you duck and get in through the door, you smile at the goblins. They look over and notice you, obviously, as you're coming in. And they all kind of put their hands in the air and go, "Hey, Martis!" and then go back to drinking.
Martis gives a wave. Like for him, they are his rock. They are the things that will keep him safe in this encounter.
So and as you kind of look over to the table, Benjamin gives you a polite wave and beckons you to come sit at the table, and he goes, Martis, so good to see you. Yes, come sit. This here is Gowlem Brace. He is another one of the members of your potential party that's going to be heading to the surface.
I'm sorry that killed me.
Make yourself comfortable. Some other people should be joining us momentarily. As he finishes that sentence, one of the little goblins comes kind of running over to you, tup, 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 and he hands you a bug that he caught earlier that day, and he was going to eat it, but wanted to see if you wanted it instead.
That is so fucking cool.
Martis will smile. He'll like pat the goblin on the head slightly and politely take the bug and say, "Thank you, small one." Thank you.
He's Android 16. Yes.
The birds.
I just sort of stare at the goblin.
After you take the goblin's bug, it is very much like sort of like getting an autograph from a celebrity. He's just like, "Eee!" And then he runs over to his table and he's like, he took the bug, and then they go back to drinking their beer.
This is the tightest shit.
I fucking love this city.
This is great.
And yes, for everybody who is curious, in our chat right now, we've got Acrylic Ink. You can contact him here in our chat on the stream on Twitch, or on our Discord server, which is linked below the stream. You can go and contact our wonderful and lovely Acrylic Ink and have some art drawn up of your character if you want. Just there's lots of really cool prices, as well as you, our subscribers, if you want to throw them some money. The prices of which have been posted on our Discord. Very fair. If you want to have sort of some illustrations of your characters done up as either like a full body color or like black and white, and either full body like half or just sort of the portrait.
Can I say something?
Yeah, what's up?
Yes, I would like art. Thank you.
Yeah, no, contact Acrylic. He does very, very reasonable pricing, so if you want to check that out, feel free.
And as Acrylic has said in the chat, both Steve and I are waiting on our art, which is going to be coming, so you guys should be able to see what we look like
next
shortly.
session, you should be able to, or maybe later today, who knows? You'll get to see mine and SassElf's characters. This is going to be dope.
All right.
It's going to be dope!
So, next in through the door comes SassElf's character. If you would like to describe your entrance.
So, from the front door, it opens very slowly and only just kind of enough to allow in a black-robed figure. Full-length robes, the hood pulled up, not all the way down, but it's kind of hard to see her face, and she's obviously wearing a veil over the lower half. The robe has some symbols on them. They're more just kind of decorative as far as most people can tell. Long sleeves, full length to the ground. You can't make out a lot, but you can tell it's a woman. A short woman, just over 5 feet, not much more. She just kind of slips in and stands off to the side, trying to be as unnoticed as possible. Looking around specifically for the one person she would recognize, and seeing Benjamin over at the table, she just kind of unobtrusively walks her way over. And is there a chair next to Benjamin?
There is. There is a chair available immediately to his left.
Okay, so so she would grab that chair and sit down with a very polite nod to the turtle and the turtle already seated, and a much more formal nod over to Benjamin. Thank you again for inviting me. I try to make my way here as quickly as possible so as not to... It's not going to be a problem. And she just sits there and folds her hands together on the table in front of her, but you notice her hands are a light shade of purple. Hood falls back slightly, but not entirely. You can tell kind of the back of her head is a little misshapen, but the forehead is just completely hairless. Slopes back, a little uneven, but it's bright purple. And the eyes are just pools of black. And from where her nose would be, all the way down to her chin, is just this opaque black veil. But you can tell that there's something undulating under it.
That's
Yum.
not unsettling at all.
Spooky.
So as you make your way in and you come and sit, of course, as per usual, Benjamin waves you in, and he's just like, "Oh yes, Ophelia, come, sit." And you take a seat next to him, and he's like, "Ah yes, very good. It's good to see you here and healthy and on time. Thank you very much. Good. The child of the Gray family who runs this tavern sort of waddles its way over to the table and comes over to where Ophelia is and kind of grabs a fistful of her robes and then stares up at her and then just goes, "Bah!" Before anything can be said, the mother quickly kind of scuttles over and goes, No, don't bother them, and like picks the baby up and like trudges over and places her in like a pot behind the bar.
The baby just pointed at you and went B emoji.
So with the handful of robes pulled, the hood would be pulled back kind of off the top of her head and down to around her neck. And you would notice these large hair-like tentacles, very large, kind of like Twi'leks, if you guys are familiar with Star Wars, but more than that. Like there's about 5 or 6.
Oh my gosh.
Smooth all the way down the back of her neck, and she just kind of looks around and looks at the child. Her veil just moves slightly. It kind of what sounds like a chuckle if it was underwater.
That's fun.
And then she just pulls her hood up back just to cover her hair tentacles, but leaves it back on her forehead so at the table can see it. I don't see children very often.
No, most people in the Black City are not of the child persuasion, but we do occasionally get young folk here and there, and it is quite pleasing to say the generations fold over as they do.
They're very misshapen.
At the comment of misshapen, the Willow, the barmaid, turns to you and goes, "Huh." And then looks back at her own baby who's sitting in a pot behind the counter and goes, "Well, yeah," and then continues sort of like kind of going about serving drinks.
Why do they sound like Marge's sisters from Simpsons?
Except high pitched.
It's a fucking lady stone troll that's like large gray skinned, like the hair that comes out of the tops of their heads is like thick, almost like branches. And they have these sort of protrusions coming out of the tops of their heads that are kind of like horns, but they look like gnarly branches almost. And you'll see similar protrusions kind of coming out their shoulders and some parts of their arms, their knees,
Gnarly.
and toes as well. Like a very gnarled looking black-skinned, or gray-skinned troll folk. And yeah, I mean, despite the strange way that they look, they're actually quite friendly. So yes, the next person to wander in, I would say, is going to be Cassie.
Hello.
Hello. Give us a whole description.
Okay. So the door opens very slowly, and into the tavern walks a very pale, kind of ghostly woman. Strangely enough, she seems young, but her hair is very like long, silvery. She's kind of, she walks in slowly. She kind of looks around hesitantly. She looks visibly very nervous. Her eyes, if you look at them, they almost seem to be constantly tearful. And she's definitely got, like, you know the term resting bitch face?
Yeah.
She has resting sad face.
Aww.
I know that feel.
Yeah, you do, sad hipster Jesus.
Yeah.
So she's very thin, very pale, long silvery hair just like drapes down her shoulders. She's wearing a dark kind of like almost kind of a black and violet dress that like the neck kind of, it goes all the way up. The dress itself is sleeveless, but it's very long, and she's wearing a cloak over her shoulders as well. Her clothing is very simple but very tasteful. But so she walks over, seeing Benjamin, kind of hesitantly, looks around at all of the empty seats, doesn't really know where to sit, like who to sit next to. Hello, I'm here.
As you come in, Benjamin does see you, and he goes, "Oh yes, of course, Madam Blueleaf, do come in." And he gestures to one of the seats next to Martis. You as you come in, the green forest troll who's sitting off to one side, sort of as you come in, eyes you with like a regard, and he's just like, "Oh, pretty." As you come in, like, but it's like quietly into himself. He's just like, "Wow!" Like as you come in. Because Cassie's character is a banshee, so she has a physical form, but her physical form is made from what they call ephemera, which is like a solid ectoplasm. So her skin is very fair, very pallid, very pale. And her form is almost like statuesque in the way that it looks like it was almost carved from like a crystal or a marble. In the way
Ghost flesh.
And yeah, Kara, troll sexual harassment. But he sort of speaks that line like into his mug that he's got in front of him. Just like, "Oh, that's nice." Like, like under his breath to himself. But it carries a bit more than you'd think. And Cassie, your character just kind of catches it as you come in.
She's a little bit taken aback by it and just kind of like almost kind of gasps very quietly. Just almost gasps. Just like
hold on.
like a very short inhale of breath.
I'm gonna pull something. I'm gonna roll a d20 real. Fuck, never mind. I rolled a natural one just there. I've got it kind of off to the side so that you guys can't see what we're rolling and doing some stuff, just so that people who are watching at home don't catch any of the extra stuff that I might be leafing through.
But that was
on
a
this
nat
side.
one.
But that was
It
a
was
nat
that
one.
one.
So you do notice that the 3 goblins who are sitting at the one table do see you, but are way too nervous to come and talk to you, so they don't get up, and they remain in their seats, kind of burying their faces into the steins that are just way too fucking big for their hands.
To be fair, they could probably fit their whole heads into the stein.
Yeah, they
most
just
of them
like
do.
ostrich head.
Yeah,
heads into the
they
bucket.
just kind of like holding. It's like they're holding a small bucket, and they just kind of like look really nervous and stick their faces in it.
Oh, oh no.
Oh, darn.
Oh.
Sets the mood of the entire game. First roll, natural 1. Oh, you guys are gonna do
Whackity
great.
schmackity doo.
It's gonna be so much fun. All right, so as you come in and you take your seat, Benjamin warmly welcomes you to the table, and says very glad to see you, and glad that you're here, that you're on time. This is quite exciting. Yes, good. And then in next comes Jay's character, Jay Nerd.
Hello.
Hello.
Boy, okay, here we go. It's been 2 years. Let's do this. Okay, so the door actually swings open quite quickly and hits the wall, catching everyone's attention. And outside is a very shocked, almost in tears, Dragonborn, who just goes, sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I'm sorry. And
As you come in, because the door swings open a little too hard and clacks against the wall and kind of grabs everyone's attention, Keldaka, the large gray troll who's behind the counter cooking the food, goes, "Hey, watch your door!" And then the little baby inside the pot, holding a soup spoon, whacks him on the elbow and he goes, "Ah, fuck!" And he continues sort of fussing about in the food. Sorry, please continue.
So she slowly walks in, Zephyr, who has a black cloak cape, sort of, wrapped around her, holding onto it tightly. Underneath, you could see she has just like a sort of tattered up shirt and shorts. Cut off just by the knees where her claws come out. Like, yeah, claws. Yep, that's what dragonborns have. Yeah, yeah, claws. She walks in very slowly, looking around. She is a black dragonborn, and she has her. She has sort of like scale sort of things on the top of her head that are quite grown and are folded over to one side, sort of that it looks like a was it undercut?
Yeah.
Undercut, yeah. So she's walking in and she's looking around. She notices, or she looks over at the stone troll who sort of yelled at her, and once again as like an apology, and notices Benjamin and the other people at the table. And she notices the Minotaur and the other, and sort of gets nervous, seeing all these different like other creatures in one room and not knowing how to handle it. So she walks over and tries to sit in a chair that is as far away from everyone else as possible, and holds and literally tightens the cape as close as she can to her body, and just squeaks out, "Oh." That's it.
Oh, so Benjamin, happy to see you, as he's been just fucking thrilled to see everybody else. Goes, "Oh yes, do yes, no, come. Zephyr, sit here with us here. It's good to see you. It's good to see that you're on time. And it's wonderful. And is sort of ushers you in to sit you with everybody else. Is very excited.
Gowl's head just slowly turns towards Zephyr because reptile solidarity.
I'll tell you this now. Although she understands, she is terrified.
Yeah.
Blink.
Ophelia-
It's just a nod, and then he turns back to Benjamin.
At like a snail's pace.
Ophelia, from her seat next to Benjamin, just kind of turns her head, just these two pools of black for eyes are just kind of staring at you with the head just slightly cocked to the side, but not a sound. Just...
You know those like shy anime characters that when they go eep, she literally does that. She literally lets. She's like, hey.
If she's a dragon, there's like a little bit of like acid breath just go. She
Pretty much covers her mouth to make sure it doesn't drip on the table and burn it or anything.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Guess what we're gonna do right now for sake of fun?
Oh no!
No! Do you hiccup acid?
I
Let's
want
see.
you to roll me a dex save.
Dex.
Yeah, dexterity save.
Okay, and then there we go.
Nice.
Okay,
Strong.
good.
23.
Pretty good.
23.
So okay,
19 plus
so
4.
you make an eep and a little drop of acid comes out, but you manage to catch it and sort of like keep it before it dribbles onto the table in front of you, and you don't catch any more ire from the cook behind the table. Yeah.
Yum.
So yeah, that is you. You're in and you're at the table, and then last but certainly not least, Steven's character enters. Steve, if you will.
So as the door's still open, because wasn't shut,
No.
as our Dragonborn friend walks in, just the clack of leather boots on is it wood floor or stone floor?
It's wood in here. It's stone outside.
So transitioning into boots on wood floor with the slight clack of belt buckles clacking against each other and on like leather, comes in striding a cloaked figure, and the first immediate thought is, damn, that's a nice hat. A not just a tad taller than our turtle friend, standing at 6'2".
He's a tall fellow.
Walks. He's above average height. Strolls in and just walks, turns to Benjamin, and continues the slow gait, the clack, clack. He wears.
So really quickly, that same troll who's sort of sitting off to one side in another corner of the room sees you come in, and again into his drink is like, "That's a nice hat." Like this.
As the figure approaches, Ophelia turns her black eyes just open very wide, and she kind of like retreats into her seat a little bit. Continue.
Yeah. Okay, continue with your entrance there, good sir.
The once man, now known only as the Leshian, wears a long, like a witch hunter style coat. You know, the Victorian Bloodborne-esque coat that trails. It splits off at the back thrice into different like tails of the coat. And were you to see him years ago, it might have been resplendent with insignias and whatnot, but now it's old. It's musty navy. There's like maybe like seals that were on it that were once holy that have been like dried away and they've withered. He has a bunch of bandages and wraps tying his braces and boots together, and his face is obscured by his pale eyes, by of course the very wide-brimmed flat top hat that he wears, and a mask covering up just above his nose. On the banding around the hat, there is, of course, the same symbol that was on Mardus' shoulder, a small insignia that signifies that of the city watch.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he's a watchman. His shoulders are wreathed with a very tattered cloak that sits down behind him as a cape, and he does the good old clack, clack as he walks over, just like the slight bit of movement flowing the cape and coattails behind him. You can see on his right hip there is coiled up, resplendent even in this light, a black cord bounded but with multiple silver binds, a whip. And he walks over to where Benjamin and the rest are sat and leans against the wall. Nearby, he doesn't take a seat as everyone else is already sat by. He stands and watches.
Too fucking cool to sit down.
Does the freaking anime character badass wall lean?
Oh yeah, arms folded, 1 foot slightly propped up. Oh yeah,
Does he,
you know
does
it.
he enter and go,
No. He says he's
Wow.
even edgier. He says
I-
nothing.
I have.
oh.
Where is he standing behind anyone specific?
He stands behind Benjamin. Benjamin called him, and he stands behind him.
To
so-
which side?
To the right, I suppose.
Yeah, standing behind his right shoulder.
Am I sitting on the right?
You
Or
were
am I
on
sitting
his
on the left?
Who's on the right?
Yeah, so around the table you'd have Benjamin. To his left going around would be Ophelia, and then next to her I believe would be Mardus, and then Zephyr I believe would be sitting there, and then Blue Leaf, and then Gowl.
We're just getting all the tropes out of the way here. Yes, everyone shout edgelord all you care. Go ahead. I don't fucking give
Get it out of your
People-
systems.
People in the chat are losing their fucking minds over this.
Look, Steve's playing an edgy character. Why are you all surprised? Why are you
Must
all
become
Biggest
Marquis
day that
of the
ends
Edge.
in a Y. But you'll see. So,
We needed
As
some
everybody
good
comes in-
old-fashioned hot topic to measure out all this Hello Kitty nonsense.
Let Doc.
that's okay. So as everybody comes in and gets seated, finally Leshen comes in, and Benjamin is just like, "Oh yes, the Leshen, quite good, quite good. Come, come, come." And he waves you over, and you take your position behind his right shoulder and sort of leaning against the wall, and he goes, "Right, that's fine."
I don't care. I'm too cool.
Quite nice. And then turns to the rest of the party and is just like, "Right, so I'm so happy that all of you have accepted the king's invitation for a very particular set of jobs that may be coming our way in the near future." And as he finishes that sentence, Willow, the large gray troll barmaid, kind of trudges over the table and goes, "How many do you eat?"
You remember that anime Eep thing? Yeah, it happened again.
Another very good question to ask this gaggle of freaks.
And she's kind of like fucking looks and like scans across the table sort of nonchalantly. And we just have a brief interrupt there, so we're going to have to reload the page. Sorry about that. It has told me that I've lost my connection.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh
Get
yeah.
the refresh, we're all good.
Just a quick refresh.
Refresh. Oh.
But yeah, she scans her face across the group of people that are sitting at the table, and is just like,
Ophelia kind of gently shakes her head.
yeah, it's just like, "You eat food? Anybody here who wants to like have something to drink? Huh? No. Ah, an ale for the turtle. Anyone else?"
But do you perhaps have a stein,
What was that?
a water, a straw if you have it?
She kind of stops for a moment and is just like, "Do we have straws? Like,
Do we?
let me see what I can do." And just looks around, is like, "So an ale for the turtle, water, anyone else?"
Do you have tea?
"Oh, I got lots of tea." And she kind of gives a knowing look over to Benjamin. He goes, "Ah, yes, tea. I'd love some tea." And she's just like, oh, of course you would. You always want some good tea. and she trudges off towards the bar, and in a moment returns with a flagon of ale that she hands over to the turtle, and 2 cups of tea, which she gives to the banshee as well as the skeleton, and then turning over to Ophelia, like sort of curiously hands you what is effectively like a teapot with water in it, and it's just like, just put the spigot in your hole and you just tip it so that you can drink that way.
Ophelia just reaches up with both hands and grabs it and just looks at it curiously and goes, "So I can make this work," and just puts it down in front of her and just leaves it, and she considers it for a second.
Consider teapot.
Consider, if you will, teapot. Like, it's got a tall spout to it, so you think you could definitely like jam that in under your veil and like tip it.
It's fine.
Probably drink that
I'm
way.
thinking about it. She's thinking about it.
So she's kind of having a thought. So yeah. Whoop.
I did a thing. I accidentally did a thing. How do I get this off here? Go away.
There you go.
Go away. What? How did you? How? What?
I just deleted it. That's all.
Oh, you deleted it. I'm just trying to open my frickin' sheet. Why is this so complicated?
Banned.
It's a great system. It's not intuitive, so it's not very easy to learn. But once you figured it out, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I gather that.
Yeah, Palanthir in the chat's like, submitted for your approval, a teapot. So yes, the wonderful skeleton Benjamin Hyde sitting at the table, very properly holding his teacup and saucer, pinkies out. Just has a quick look around the group and takes a sip from his tea, and again, it just kind of vanishes in there. Not a lot of knowledge as to where it's going or why or how, but folks mostly are too scared to ask. Either way, he's just like, quite good. So,
may
do we
I
have
make
any
an
questions?
Arcana check?
Oh, an Arcana check.
To see if I know why his monocles and his mustache and the tea are just, hovering and or disappearing.
Yeah, go for it.
just total, just being there, just like, did you even get anything
14.
out of that?
Actually, 14 even, both ones.
14 on both rolls. So you can tell through the knowledge of magic that you've been able to collect thus far that the tea vanishing's definitely a magic thing. The monocle staying up appears to be a magic thing. The mustache is a mystery. So we're not precisely sure how that's happening, but
It's sunning.
it's sunning. It's happening.
I like how TLDR is just like, it's like, I want to find out why it's happening. And it's like, the answer is magic! Next!
Well, that's the thing, is that like you can definitely tell it's a magical thing, though you're not precisely able to ascertain what the spells are, because they do appear to be quite sophisticated. You can tell that the magic that holds Benjamin together is quite sophisticated. That he is not a direct extension of the Black King's will, but he was created by the Black King as a personal attendant. So he's sort of here on that business, but you can tell that like the magic that weaves him together is quite potent, and definitely at this point well above your understanding. But you are able to be like, yeah, no, that's definitely, like, you can tell that's definitely magic for the tea and that monocle being there. That's not
Just cue
normal.
the one frame from JoJo where Koichi's just going, I don't know what's happening, but something's happening.
He just clacks his jaw open. There's like an audible like pop, and he just shoves the flagon in there, tips back. You just watch him like he's still locked eyes with Benjamin, and it's just the ale is just flowing down his throat for like a good 10 seconds, and then he just puts the flagon
in your
down.
mouth do you get that flagon?
It gets it.
The bottom, like he's not shoving it like the whole thing. Like the bottom lip of the flagon is basically like up against, almost like propped by his bottom jaw and like almost up against his top jaw. So it's just sort of just like flowing backwards down his throat. And he just puts it down on the table, and his jaw like like snaps closed again, and he just remains quiet.
As you bring the flagon up, due to your physiology, you do have to get it like quite in there. Like the base of the flagon needs to get like against the back of your jaw.
I was
And as
about
you
to say
sit
he's got to
back-
do more of like he has to get it in like sideways.
Yeah, like he opened your mouth large enough, you're able to fit the stein in there and then tip it back to drink. As you're doing so, though, Keldaka from behind the bar goes, "Hey, no eating those. Those aren't food." And you just like finish your drink and put it down, and he's just like, "Oh, okay, good, nerd, all right." He just goes back to
Stay
making
still. Doesn't
Yeah.
even look at him.
Yeah. Those aren't food. Fucking sick of people eating my damn flagons.
How often does it happen?
You get the impression that it's happened more often than he'd like.
In that statement alone, it's like A, it's happened. B, it's happened a lot. And
You're looking by minimum twice this week. Someone has attempted to drink out of these like wooden steins, and one of them's been eaten. So
Ben,
fucking tired of that shit. It's hard to come by those things down here. So yeah, Benjamin's quite happy to see everybody. He says, "Does anybody have any questions before we begin?" A deadly silence falls over the room.
you have the edgelords, myself and Adam, who don't say anything, and you have the nervous Rex, who refuse to say anything.
You don't know me.
and the quiet, stoic, purple-robed thing to his left, just staring at him, just like,
And he just kind of looks around the room and nods and goes, "Oh, okay, good, excellent, right. So, as I've explained to each of you individually," and he speaks in a bit more of a hushed tone and leans in a little bit so that other folks
Does
that are
everyone do the lean in?
there- Does everyone
Gal
do the lean in?
leans in.
Which would more just you be extending your neck?
His neck extends a good like 4 inches out. It's really unsettling.
I feel like Martis does lean in, but because everybody's now getting slightly closer to each other, he just stops and then just leans a bit back just to keep himself a space between himself and everybody else.
Yeah, just kind
Oh,
of.
Zephyr did not lean forward. She's like, "Oh, I'm good. I can hear."
Yeah, Cyaces just kind of like leans forward a little bit, but it almost kind of seems more like she's just kind of sinking into her seat a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, sinking forward into her seat.
I see.
Ophelia just doesn't move. She's still sitting perfectly straight up, one hand on each side of the teapot, and just still looking at it, but keeps looking up at Benjamin as if like, okay.
Yeah, he's right. So, there has been obviously some discussion amongst some of the dignitaries within the Black City that has been talking about taking action towards the state of things in the overworld. As many of you know, this kingdom down here prospers quite well, but there will not be enough room to hold everyone who wishes to escape the Empire's grasp. Over time, we may see overcrowding, and we are looking to perhaps make movement to the surface once again and give people their own lands once more. That being said, every kingdom, of course, needs a king, and every kingdom also is in need of heroes. And then he kind of looks excitedly at the people that are at the table.
Does his head 180 to look at me?
A little bit. He kind of like, the mouth kind of opens a little bit in a way that would dictate an excited smile. And he kind of
I was
like
about to
looks
say,
at
does it like
everyone
do the,
at the table. And like,
yeah.
and then he kind of like, his head kind of like, and turns and looks at you over his shoulder, like, and then he comes back to looking at everybody who's at the table. He goes, "Now, we're not going to start you out with anything particularly dangerous. We're going to sort of edge you into this, sort of warm you up to the sort of things going forward. But our city is in need of champions. We have the honor guard, the grave guard, who patrol this city, and we have many of the wardens who sort of keep the social things under control. However, we do need to keep an eye, let's say, upon the overworld, and not just through our spies that we've sent up there, but there are certain things that we would need to, say, retrieve from the overworld, from other tombs and other crypts, caves, kingdoms, cities, and whatnot, items of power that our king will need in the coming conflict.
Do you not worry that this group might be perhaps a little conspicuous up on the surface? Then she just kind of looks around at the rest of the group, and then looking back over at
Well, he said,
Leshen, and she just kind of like flinches. But
he kind of like, he nods and he goes, well, quite so, yes. Each of you has been gathered here at this table because each of you possesses a specific set of skills that will be needed when cultivated to assist in the overworld and in other matters that may be coming in the near future. So, while you may seem conspicuous, as you put it, understand also that if the king were to move in force to grab some of these items, he would be tipping his hand, so to speak, to the empire above. If the empire understands that there is indeed a kingdom under these mountains, all of us face extinction. We're looking to put together a team of people that can move capably, that can move quietly when need, and will be able to fetch these items effectively, get these jobs done swiftly. This will come, of course, with payment, experience, and you'll be able to keep many of the things that you find upon the surface. He looks very excited about that.
Is he like clacking his fingers together? Like,
oh no, he's got his little he's one of his hands holding his saucer, the other one with the teacup on it. He's got his pinky out. But just as excited, he kind of like nods and kind of looks around at everybody like yeah. Like when he's saying things.
I have known Benjamin for about an hour, and if anything were to happen to him, I would kill anyone in this room. And then myself.
Ophelia turns.
Thank you, Rosa.
Ophelia turns to the Leshen and just kind of like stares it back and goes, "I have this man through this."
Oh, what was that? Sorry, you're breaking up. I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry. I should say out of character first. And because I didn't actually say Leshen.
Okay, yeah. Because sorry, I thought you said that. Never mind.
I will preface that from now on. I apologize.
That's okay. All right. So, yeah, this is one heck of a monster squad, Willow. You're absolutely correct. And hello to Magnoth and all you lovely people who are
So
in the chat.
Ophelia just kind of burbles a little bit and then grabs that teapot, turns it a little bit with the spigot just kind of like off to the side, sort of, tilts her head back, and the hood falls down again, revealing the hair tentacles. And she just kind of like inserts the spigot like underneath the veil, trying to keep it down as much as possible, and just tips it straight back. You can kind of see some water like dripping down into like where her neck would be onto the cowl, but as it's tipped back, you see just a little like tail of like a purple tentacle come out and kind of curl its way around the handle of the teapot for a moment before she removes it entirely and puts it back down.
Slurp.
With my passive perception, would I be able to see Ophelia's different colored skin tone and like the undulations from behind her head?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
like if you guys want to do a knowledge check, like you might know.
She is purple. Like just straight up, everyone can tell she is purple.
Oh yeah, she's definitely got very obviously purple skin.
I wanted to basically ascertain if I knew what race she was. I'm not sure what check that would be.
I'm going to hold my hand up and say, Leshen probably definitely knows what she is.
I don't know how to whisper in games, so just in response to your question, Sass, physical speech.
Thank you.
For now. And
okay.
Going with everybody else, if you guys want to do, because she's definitely wearing a disguise, so if you want to do a perception check, then I can tell you what her race is, and it's like some of the people, definitely the folks who live in the Black City, will have known what these are and will have seen them before.
Now, to be clear to everyone who's listening, it is not quite a disguise, but it is like she is covering parts of herself.
21 on perception.
Shit!
Oh, I know nothing.
Okay.
Due to the power of the Blood Hunter's Bane, I gain advantage. Neat.
Neat. So that is 4. And Martis, are you gonna roll?
Mardis will not do the perception check. He is too busy trying to make himself a small target as possible.
Aw.
Big boy.
So yeah, anybody who got over a 10, which was everyone in the group here, are able to tell that Ophelia, the purple character who sits here with a veil on her face, is an Illithid, also known as a Mind Flayer. They are creatures
Brains suck.
Yeah, brains suck! They are creatures from the deep earth that are known to live in large subterranean areas. Some of you may have seen them, on occasion, moving about through the city. But they are never without an escort, with the exception of Ophelia.
So Cyaces is really new to this city.
Mm-hmm.
She's only just kind of arrived, so this is probably the first time that she would have seen someone like this. Is that correct?
Well, Cyaces was actually one of the earlier denizens of the Black City, though she does not wander nearly as often as other folk do. Due to her nature.
Oh, that's right. No, sorry, I
Yes.
misunderstood. No, you're right. Okay, so
That's
that's
okay.
right. I would have seen. Okay.
Yeah, you may have seen.
So this is not shocking to me.
It's not terribly shocking, but it's like you might have seen them once. It is rare that they're out in public, and they're never outside the Black City, and they're always with an escort, with the exception being Ophelia. If you have seen her walking about on the streets, she is always with the veil and hood, and often occludes her features as she goes to and from the archives back to their living quarters, which is not too far from the palace. It's quite nice living accommodations. So yeah. Some of the people who, if you want, like, some of the people who have sort of known that they have been there, they know that they've been there for about 3 to 5 years, that they've been there. And it's a small pod of Mind Flayers that were moved in to the Black City about 3 to 5 years ago. And some people are unsure as to why they are there, because they're like, well, they're very powerful creatures. Does the king keep them there as trophies, or like, do they have some other purpose? Are they also being given refuge and sanctuary here, same as everyone else? Like, some people are obviously a little uncomfortable because the only things that Mind Flayers are known to eat are the brains of the living. So some people have found it uncomfortable, but over time have just learned to accept that they're there because no one's gone missing or died at their hands, so everything's pretty much fine.
The undead are fine, though, because they're like, haha, fuck you.
Gowl will look over at Ophelia, and what you all hear is him basically say, like it's almost like this deep reverberation that just kind of goes like, which you understand deep speech as, you are welcome.
She just kind of stares over at the turtle and just kind of inclines her head a little bit. Look at, if a purple face could look embarrassed, she does.
Aww.
He just sort of kind of like looks at her for a moment and then goes back to his empty flagon, takes out a book, and then just flips it open and begins turning.
I like Turtle Grandpa. I'm a fan of Turtle Grandpa.
Creepy Turtle Grandpa!
He's angry
You
Turtle
kids
Grandpa.
get off my lawn!
Get out of my dang pond. So yes, that is the sort of situation there. But he goes, yes. So there are some smaller tasks that the king will ask of you within the city to get you acclimated to working as a team and getting used to each other. There may be a test of your martial capabilities, how you handle combat, because you will most undoubtedly be dealing with members of the Empire on the surface. And yes,
Good.
this is an opportunity, I believe, for everyone.
There is a nice
who is present.
bristling from Leshen behind, like.
Just
So
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
Cyaces kind of like slowly raises her hand.
oh yes. Well, what is that, Cyaces?
Are we to be expected to take this martial test alone, or will we be on a team?
He chuckles lightly in a way that causes his jaw to clack open and shut on his head, sort of commenting like,
Y'all play-
like clack, clack,
Y'all
clack.
ever play Kill Instinct? Spinal?
As he giggles to himself like, no, of course not. All of your skills will be tested as a group. So all of you will be obviously working together. All of the sort of tasks that we have laid before you before we have you move to the surface and performing jobs outside will be done as a group. We want all of you to be working as a team. So most of these skills will be to assist you in getting to know each other and learning what each other's position would be in combat, things of those sorts.
If we were to
Cyaces takes like a kind of like a little sigh of relief.
Aw.
Ophelia just kind of burbles from underneath her veil. If we were to have been doing this alone, why would we have met in such a public space?
I suppose that's fair.
That's a very good point, Ophelia. Yes, we've decided to meet in an area that is sort of in the public, and then, of course, gives everybody here the opportunity that if you're not interested in going forward with these particular jobs, this opportunity here, then you may have the agency to back away. But of course, that is up to you. Personally, I think that this is wonderful, as each of you will be given the wonderful opportunity to go above and carry out the Black King's will in plundering dungeons and all sorts of fun adventurous things that I'm told adventurers get to do as a part of, the living and whatnot. he's very excited about a lot of stuff. Like he is
yucking it up. He is a fan.
Because he's thrilled. Because like the fact of the matter is, the people that come into Autumeth, like this great tomb beneath the earth, they're refugees. Most of them are tribal folk. They're people who run taverns. They're artificers. They're like merchantile people. Like there are not many warriors who live down here. There are no adventuring people. There aren't.
So what you're saying is that we need a hero.
Guys,
They've already made that joke in the chat.
Have they?
Yes.
guys, we're in Undertale.
This is what I have to say. I have to go now and sign out. Thank you. I did not sign up for this.
Yeah, that's right. The Black King turns out as a big furry white guy.
Oh, can I please? I want to hug him.
There you go. You can hug the king when you see him if the desire does so overcome.
It's like shy character that like says nothing, just runs up to the king. Hi, I want a hug.
May I hug you, please?
Everyone else is like, what?
Oh no.
Let's continue.
Gal will turn to Benjamin, and in this deep voice, he will just say, "If it is the Black King's will, fine."
He kind of turns to you and he nods and he goes, "Yes, it is." Though understand, of course, that this does not come down from the king as an order. He specifically gave me the instructions to find people within our city that would not only relish at the opportunity to head up to the surface and explore and test out their skills and really flesh out their destiny, but also those who would work well together, who bring unique skills and capabilities to the table. And I know nearly everyone who lives within the Black City, nearly everybody who lives in the Black City knows me. So I'm very excited to say that you are my first pick. And he kind of goes around the table to everybody. He starts first with Leshen over his shoulder, and he goes, a talented hunter, a man who was struck down by his people, and will have an opportunity not only to see the Empire the way it is now, but also to perhaps settle a few things with some of the folks who have dealt him so poorly. And he turns to Gowl. And he goes, seekers of knowledge and power, and he turns around to God, I can't say your name, Sices?
Siaces, yeah.
Siaces. And he says, people who used to live on the surface, who may want to see it again, and who possess a unique skill of intangibility at moments. And then to Zephyr, the Black Dragonborn, he says, the ability to move quietly, and perhaps have a chance to prove that you are indeed strong enough and worthy of respect and honor. And turns to Mardus, the Minotaur, and he goes, strength and honor will also be needed on these missions, and the opportunity to prove that fear is not to be used as a ruling tool as it was on others. And then at last turns to Ophelia and says, and the opportunity, of course, to perhaps find where the rest of our people are. Find new knowledge, to seek out more spells and other things as such.
And if I may also say, and she just regards everyone around the group, as a way perhaps to say thank you to our Lord who rescued us and gave us a safe haven to stay and to thrive. At the very least, this is what we can do.
Agreed.
That fucking turtle, my god. I fucking
Sounds like
love
he's
Grandpa
gargling.
Turtle.
It sounds like he's the Tom Waits of turtles. He's like gargling whiskey.
I was about to say, like, if you ever hear like an alligator snap and turtle like open their mouths, they make a lot of like they gargle a lot before they snap and whatnot. So he's doing that but speaking. Like, it's dope. I like to imagine when you like enunciate things like with your T's and K's, you like snap your jaw.
Well, wait till he talks
That's
more.
fun.
Gonna get those little clickety clacks.
Yeah.
Clack clack clack. As it goes along, he then sort of like opens the floor to the rest of you and is just like, right, yes. So, if everyone is agreed, is there any questions that you have, or anything that you'd like to say? Any way that you'd like to perhaps introduce yourselves to each other? Yes.
What is our first assignment?
Quick and to the point. Excellent.
Smiles. Like, as much as a turtle can smile, he just smiles and just sort of doesn't even look at Leshen. Just smiles.
Ah, good. He's just like, right, yes, excellent. So, what are the... Excuse me. He doesn't burp. I'm gassy. Leave me alone. Yeah, the fucking skeleton burps, and everyone's like, why, though?
How?
Oh, Connell, you just did the John Mulaney bit
Oh, yeah.
where he talks about getting old and having old back burps.
Yeah, the burping is done.
Oh,
Just
God.
take a break and burp. God.
Alright, let's go.
All right, so he goes, right, yes. So for your first assignment is going to be dealing with a bit of a political matter, I must say. So on the western end of our great cavern here in Autumeth, there is a tribe of orcs who, having lived here for quite some time, some of them have grown, how to say, a bit upset with their accommodations. They believe that they've lost their way in terms of their culture and have begun raiding some of these smaller tribes that live about the woods. So we need some people to go and deal with that. And instead of sending in the Graveguard in force, we were hoping that we could send this lovely crew and just get a gauge on how you handle diplomatic matters, should they come up. That being said, always, of course, remember that our kingdom is not as heavy-handed as some would like to say. It's more to the point. God, I'm having a struggle with words here. We would of course like to see everyone come out of this alive. Intimidation really should be intimidation and violence used as a last resort, of course. We want to sort of ascertain why they're doing this and bring an end to any of this behavior.
And ideally, we do all live here, so I believe if any regretful actions were to be taken, I feel the Graveguard would be called, would they not?
Yes, of course. No, if any of them become hostile towards you, the Graveguard would respond immediately. So there is no worry, I trust, of them immediately becoming violent with you. That also being said, I think that you are capable of opening some manner of diplomatic discussions with them, yes? And he sort of looks around the table expectantly.
Ophelia, to his left, just simply nods and says, "If the Black King wishes me to do a thing, I shall attempt to fulfill his will."
Ah, quite good, yes. So, I'll give you the evening to sort of think this over, and we'll start bright and early again tomorrow morning, yes?
Scythes just nods quietly.
So be it.
Quite good. I'll meet
Definitely
you
awesome.
at the southern gates to the city, and I'll have you along your way. Wonderful. He finishes his cup of tea, and he gives everybody a polite nod and sort of scuttles his way out the door, as he's wont to do.
He like tap dance at something like tick 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 tick.
He does move with like a speed and sort of like a form to him that is very polite in the way. Like he
It's the
definitely
walk of a happy man.
yeah. Like have you ever played like We Happy Few?
Yes.
Like the jaunty walk that they do when they're on their like crazy happy drugs, and they do
I was about to say like
elbows out like they.
I was about to say
fucking-
the Vince McMahon strut.
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's a jaunty walk. It's got the elbows out. Like they're
Yeah,
really-
elbows out.
They're enjoying themselves. They're having a good time.
You almost like expect him to do like a little like song and dance out the door, and like a big like hooked cane comes out and drags him out.
Oh, baby, hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal.
I like if skeletons could whistle.
I believe it.
Though considering the current premises we have faced,
Was that?
it surprised me if he could whistle for some reason.
Yeah, he would be whistling were he able to. You think? But
I
he makes
mean-
a little clickety clack as he jauntily makes his way off and leaves you lot at the table to discuss amongst yourselves.
Joyous.
Great people.
Reach the least social party possible.
So Syaces kind of finds herself in a really awkward situation because as a noble she was brought up in a very specific like, you have to be polite and you have to introduce yourself to like you have to introduce yourself to the other people at the table, and like you have to decorum and this and that, and it just seems like everyone else at the table is very just not having it and doesn't know how to like approach the situation.
Lashon, I guess, is the first to speak up. He puts a hand over his chest. He does a slight bow and is like, "Then I suppose introductions are in order. The people have referred to me as Lashon. I apologize." And he looks down, sort of returning the beady stare to Ophelia, and is like, "If I have made anyone here uncomfortable with my presence."
Well, Leshon, Ophelia says and turns and looks at him, but not quite full on. I am simply glad to know that you are not here because I am. I see you wandering around near the palace, and I know what some of the other races think of us being around. Would you like to sit, and she kind of gestures to Ben's recently vacated chair hesitantly.
Leshen does like.
Yo, the sexy squid's asking you to sit down, man. You gonna sit?
Notice.
We're throwing the ships out already. We're throwing the ships out.
Notice how I didn't point that out. But anyways.
Oh, well, fuck.
Sorry, bro.
Brother takes a seat.
Four. On Leshen.
Your
He-
perception 4? What are you looking for there?
Looking to see if I can ascertain the fuck Leshen is, but that's a 4, so I'm assuming not.
You'll find that in a bit.
he looks like he's a human.
So Leshen
Weird.
actually
Yeah, it's
nods
fucking
down and takes the seat, and is very much warned by the fact that this is probably the first time in a long time that someone has been, especially like a monster race, has been, hey, nice to see you. Considering most people look at him on the sidewalk and just like, I'm not dealing with that.
Well, okay, you would have ascertained from her tone. It's not so much nice to see you. It's more just like, oh, good, you're not here to take me in. Okay. Huh.
Were I here on business, I can assure you I would be doing my best not to be noticed.
I have a feeling about that.
But to break the proverbial ice, he takes off his hat, rests it on the table. His hair is long, it's kind of ratty, needs a shower. Or like it's needed a shower for about 10 years.
Gross!
Ew.
And he pulls the mask down his face, and the immediate thing you notice is that there is gaping marks in his cheeks. Like cut marks running down the side of his face. You can see the tongue through the side of his mouth as he speaks.
Fuck.
Oh, fun.
No, sorry, it's not. No, it's not Zephyr. That's me. Ugh, sorry. Okay, we're good. Sorry.
Ophelia does not react.
It's like, I look forward to making your acquaintances.
Do I see any lights in his eyes?
He still has his eyes, and there is a faint glow of whatever color you would.
Pale blue.
Yeah, but it's much more muted than you would see.
Yeah,
on
it's
most
not
of
like
them.
the Grave Guard who have like the fucking like supernova meme eyes but blue.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a bit of a blue there, and now everybody can see at this table that Steve's character, the Leshen, is a revenant. This is a person who was killed and then very recently resurrected. So they're very much they're kind of like super zombies in a sense. They are undead. They still possess their faculties, and they're quite resilient. In some legends, revenants return to life by themselves. They are people who were very severely wronged at one point or another and have chosen to return to life forcibly because they seek vengeance of some kind or another.
Wow.
Actually, Cassie, your character with a perception of 14, perception check, you would recognize the clothing that he wears. He is a monster hunter.
Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da.
Oh, God! And the
Yeah.
Capcom lawyers descend from the skies on rappel lines.
Yeah, very much like the hunters from Bloodborne. They wear those long coats and these hats, and they were trained in hunting down and killing creatures of the night. So you would recognize some of that garb because back when you were still alive, you knew of these people. That being said, the particular symbols on some of the medallions and stuff that are still a part of his uniform are unknown to you. They're from a particular order amongst the hunters that you are not familiar with.
Okay, cool.
Are we just to call you the Leshen? Or do you have a name?
He looks over at Turtle Man.
Yowl.
Turtle Man. Looks over at Gowl. Bows his head slightly and begins pulling back up his mask and hat and is like, I had a name, yes, but many years have gone by and many actions I regret have taken place, and thus I am referred to as what the people call me. Fashion will do.
As you wish. You had your chance for another one. Leshen it is.
He just sort of leans back in his chair.
Turtle Grandpa.
Turtle Grandpa?
Turtle
like-
Gramps. Turtle Gramps.
I'm like, this is like a testy relationship with Turtle Grandpa. Is he going to play catch with me, or is he going to give me the cane? I don't know.
How many Werther's originals do you think he's got hidden in that shell?
How many what?
How many Werther's originals do you think he's got in that shell there?
How many across the ass am I going to get if I ask him that?
Here.
5 across the ass.
Gowl looks to everyone else very briefly. He looks like you don't even need an insight check to see that his expression is one of he looks tired. He doesn't want to be here. He just looks about everyone and quite plainly says,
My name is Gowl. I come from the Great Root. I am here because the king orders it. Do not mistake this patience for interest.
and just looks to everyone, looks back and forth again.
What a meanie
And then
bunny.
kind of takes an inhaling breath and exhales quietly and says,
A name will suffice. In the morning, we are tested, are we not?
So you are not giving us your name at the moment. We have to wait?
My name
Oh,
is
he did.
Gowl.
He's asking, I believe he's asking for everyone else's names.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's basically saying, like, I just want to know your names for now.
Yes, I
See you
understand.
tomorrow. Like,
Okay.
That didn't care.
oh.
Yes, I might as well know the names of those I shall be traveling with. It would be only prudent to call you by what you wish me to.
Fuck, Dad, come on.
Asking about the hard candies, that's a paddling.
he doesn't sound angry, he just sounds tired. Like, there's no animosity in his voice. He sounds almost like perpetually exhausted with the fact that there are goblins and a forest troll and a couple like the fact that he's around people, he's just
Seems to be a situation that makes him uncomfortable.
So,
You have all the flavors of anxiety.
so Ophelia just kind of like squares her shoulders up, as if she would be taking a deep breath, but her chest is not. And then just takes and pulls down her hood, and you get a full proper look now at like the 6 or so tentacles that make up quote unquote hair. With the
You're a squid
ends,
kid.
with the ends just kind of slowly just undulating on their own, kind of like, you know, a lazy cattail.
Aw.
And
Okay.
considers reaching over to undo her veil and then just doesn't.
Okay, good.
Looks around at the tavern and goes, bad idea.
Yeah.
That's
As you
fair.
pull back your hood, this fucking lecherous troll that's been sitting in the other corner of the room, as you're like, pull your hood back there, you just hear like that quiet, like, oh fuck, like into his stein, sort of like to himself, as you are a rare creature to these people. Like you're like, there's definitely like a stare for a moment or two from
Yep.
some of the other patrons in the bar.
Even though he kind of whispers to himself exceedingly quietly, Ophelia's eyes immediately snap to his position.
Just like hasn't dared anyone.
Just stare at him. Silently.
Like, take back your hood, and he's just like, oh fuck, and then you look, like, just turn your head straight to look at him, and he's just like, oh fuck, and then like fucking drops a coin on the table and gets up and scoots out the door.
Gowl's gaze just follows him until he leaves and then snaps back to Ophelia.
They're just like,
Okay.
oh shit.
Slowly returns her head to the group. He's gone. May call me Ophelia Uliotrad, though I don't expect the second name to be pronounceable by very many of you. And as she talks, you can kind of see the little tentacles under her veil just kind of like poking themselves out almost curiously.
He repeats the
Aw.
last name in deep speech back to you and sort of just gives a narrow gaze and then almost like an understanding upwards nod and goes,
It shall be remembered.
And she just kind of nods at the turtle. There are not many of us around here, and I respect Black King's choice to allow me to take further steps to lead people. I just simply request that if you are unsettled by my presence, you either take it up with Benjamin or direct it to me immediately, so we do not have any further complications going forward.
Agreed.
Why is it every time I talk, everyone goes 100% silent afterwards? It makes Sarah feel very uncomfortable.
Fair. You have like 3 people at the table with social anxiety.
Okay, Zeph, after Ophelia finishes, Zephyr slowly raises her hand, trying to slowly get attention, and she, as she notices people are starting to look at her, she actually turns to Ophelia and just very quietly goes, "You're actually really pretty," and then turns back to everyone else and goes, "My name is Zephyr. It is nice to meet you," and then like curls back up into her cape.
Ophelia is very just like taken aback and is just like doesn't know how to. Her head is just kind of like tilting slightly as it's just like she's like, wait, what?
Nani, the fuck?
Minotaur,
Nice.
you have been exceedingly quiet.
Ooh.
Modest kind of bows his head, like in the very apologetic manner, and says,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what I can add to this conversation.
Your name would suffice.
That is too kind for this.
Mardis. My name is Mardis.
and he bows his head again as if to apologize, and then just kind of shrinks back into his chair.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
Because the Mardis and Krell are now my favorite things ever, just because of their deep voices compared to ever. It's like, yes, hello, yes,
Melted chocolate.
I would like them to do an ASMR together, please.
This can be arranged.
Tell me, Gowl, does molasses melt faster on a summer Sunday?
Well, it depends.
Oh my god. Okay, so
And you, the ethereal one.
Siaces just kind of like, Siaces just kind of like perks up, like, oh, me, hello, my name is Siaces Blueleaf. It's nice to meet you. I don't know
look
what I'll
sad,
be able
child.
to. Oh, you couldn't possibly know the sadness inside me.
Good.
And she like
He turns away to somebody
she
else.
just like starts to cry.
oh my god.
He like washes his claws of the situation, just looks at Fletch and almost pleadingly like, give me something here.
Okay, so Cassie,
Leshen respects the turtle.
as your character softly weeps a little bit at the table, one of the goblins who is sitting at the other table sees you upset, and then one of the other goblins, like, nudges him, and he's just like, fine, and puts his fucking bucket of a stein down. His fucking tiny ass hands, and he, like, fucking trots over to the table, like, tup, and he pulls a dirty little handkerchief out from one of his pockets, and he holds it up to you, and he goes, "No, don't be sad."
So Sayasi is like, as much as she can manage a smile, like, looks at him and says, "I appreciate it. Thank you." And takes the handkerchief and, like, wipes her tears a little bit and, like, kind of gives him a gentle pat on the head.
He giggles and, like, kind of with both of his hands, like, sort of pats you on the leg that he can reach, and is just like, "It's okay, things get better," and then, like, waddles back to his table, and he leaves the handkerchief with you.
Varus smiles slightly to himself.
I don't like that creature.
Following the goblin as it leaves.
Which one was he talking about?
He's clearly looking directly at the goblin, just tracing him as he walks back to his table.
Oh no!
Ophelia looks visibly just kind of like put off by the emotion that's happening. She's just like trying to understand what's happening across the table.
Fuck.
Oh,
feelings.
Actually, what's your passive perception, Cassie?
My passive perception is 14.
14?
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So as the goblin gets back to his table, you can hear him kind of talking a bit hushed with some of the other goblins that are there. He's like, "Oh, she kept the handkerchief," and they're like, "Oh!" And then they just fucking stick their heads back in their steins and go back to drinking.
Lashin is just thinking, "Oh, by Bahamut's Maw," and the, like, scrape of the chair, like, stands up. It's like, this sounds like time to go. I will meet you all at the gates on the morrow.
Leshen, are you heading back to the palace?
Would I be heading back to the palace? I don't have a...
I don't know. You should know where you're going.
Where do you want to live? No,
I would
that's
say
actually...
yeah, because Leshen doesn't fucking live anywhere. He doesn't sleep.
Yeah, no, if you just like that entirely depends on you then. Excuse me, would you say that he has... Just take a break! Would you say that he has accommodations in the Black City? Because they would have been offered to him, but he could have declined and just continues to go about his business.
Yeah, Leshen would decline and just basically continue. He has the benefit of being a revenant that he does not need to sleep. So he's like, why not use this? He waits. To do what he normally does, and he will patrol the city for the remaining hours until dawn.
Okay. My question still stands. Are you returning towards the palace?
I would make a few passes by during the night. Yes.
Not. Never mind.
She's asking if you want to walk her back home. You big dumb idiot.
Can I?
You big dead idiot.
Can I insight what she means?
Yes. Roll me insight.
Or. Okay.
You make it. Okay. No, I set that DC at 10. You're kind of standing there for a minute. You're like, "Oh!" Like, inside your head. Like, you fucking... You catch the cue.
Cue the fucking Jeopardy clock and it's like, dun, 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 dun. Oh, shit.
All right, weed.
I understand that a number of the citizens of the troll market do not enjoy my presence alone.
Of course, I apologize. I have not been tasked with the escort job before.
Then if you are not tasked with it, do not concern yourself. I was just thinking for convenience sake.
No. I am prepared.
Gowl literally rolls his eyes, gets up, gives a nod, and leaves. Just flat out leaves, walks out the door.
He's like,
Ophelia just kind of looks after him with like this look, and her black eyes are just like, oh my god, please. Shit.
So Cyace's just kind of like, as loud as she can possibly muster, like her voice to raise, like kind of reaches out, like, oh, it was nice to meet you.
I think I lost that in a blip. Sorry, what did she say?
She tries to catch you as you leave, like with a nice to meet you in like as much of a raised voice as she can manage.
Passive perception 11. Do I hear it?
Yeah, you catch it just as you're on your way out the door.
He pauses briefly at the door, kind of like twists on his cane a bit, and like kind of looks back, and just gives you a look, and kind of like you see his bottom jaw twists in what could be grossly considered a turtle smile. When it looks wrong, it looks like there was something wrong in the delivery. Like something just went wrong. Like the jaw doesn't really look like it's smiling, and he kind of gives like a. And then nods once, turns, and then leaves and closes the door behind him.
Would I have understood what that was?
Gross turtle smile. Yes.
That was the most. That was
Sweet. That's the first of many to come.
You would probably have noticed that, especially with your perception of 14. If I'm okay to say, he hasn't really given that grin to anyone but you and Benjamin. He doesn't seem to have that facial expression when he looks at living people.
Congratulations, Ices. Your grandpa's favorite.
Aww.
Yay!
Hey, Grandpa knows my name, okay? It's better than all of you.
Grandpa knows my name.
Oh
Get ready for
man.
Grandpa's juice box.
No.
Grandpa's juice box.
No.
Did you mean to say jukebox, sir?
No,
I wanted to
Grandpa's
say
juice
juice, but
box.
now that you mention juice box is not a bad idea.
Anyways.
Anyway.
This isn't your grandpa's.
The reason for Leshen's reaction is solely because my job is I am told to sneakily creep around and hunt people. I have done like other jobs that I've been tasked with, such as go find a thing or go like shadow this person. So yeah, he's fully equipped to do so, and since no one else is here, it's kind of his job. So he very much like makes his apology. Also, he does not speak to anyone because like, people are like, "Oh, look, it's that guy." Bye.
You guys, speaking with him, definitely get the impression that several, if not all of you, are not super well versed with discussing things with other people. This might be intentional.
Yeah. How about that?
How about that shit?
How about that?
But Leshen does motion to Ophelia and it's like, I will wait outside the front of the tavern to escort you back to your residence. And
She
he bows
just-
slightly.
She just kind of looks around the rest of the group and says, you know, kind of the tentacles twitch mischievously underneath her veil. I look forward to seeing you in the morning. Goes up directly to Willow and hands her back the teapot with two hands and says, "This was adequate."
She smiles and goes, "Oh, good! I'll try that again next time." Oh, thank fuck! I was so worried. And like takes the pot and puts it away.
She just kind of pulls up her hood, covering her hair tentacles, and adjusts her veil to make sure it's properly in place, and goes outside to join the Leshen.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
Nice.
Cyace's just kind of like does a little like a wave a wave goodbye.
Oh.
Leshen does the cowboy like tip of the hat.
You smooth
I'm a banshee.
fucker.
Ophelia notices the wave and just kind of inclines her head a little, clearly kind of uncomfortable and saying goodbye. Really, she's like I don't know what people do.
It's more like, yes, I acknowledge you, and that's it. Cool.
Mardus will get up from the table and just kind of bow his head again to the two remaining and say,
My apologies for not providing much conversation. I shall see you tomorrow, I suppose.
Oh, no, that's okay. We're all just meeting for the first time, so it's expected that it might take a little while for everyone to get used to each other. It will be
Zephyr,
nice to meet you.
Zephyr raises her hand in like a short wave.
Oh.
he bows his head, and before he leaves, he heads over to the trio of goblins.
Yes.
yes.
Oh god, they're so excited to see you.
Pats the one on the head who gave Saesis the handkerchief,
Hmm.
and just says,
Thank you.
and then he waves goodbye to them and heads out, likely to go speak to his other goblin friends in his usual patrolling district.
Oh yeah, no. As you walk over and you pat him on the head and say thanks, he goes, "Oh, anytime, big fella. Oh, hopefully I'll see you around. Keep stomping."
I love goblins in this. Owl doesn't, but I do.
They're all my friends, and I've never been so happy.
So we have Turtle Grandpa. We have Minotaur Dad of many, many goblin kids. And we have all the manically depressed kids.
Why does everyone keep projecting that she's depressed? You don't know Ophelia.
No.
She's not depressed.
You're the elder sister that is the stable one and has to put up with the rest of our nonsense.
The rest of that shit.
Yeah, no, Saesis is definitely just, like, deeply fucking troubled.
We have the sad one, the angry one, and the super enclosed one as the rest of the kids.
But you
we
do
should
now
really
have
just-
a little goblin handkerchief.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should just call our adventuring party group therapy.
Oh, that's strong. That's really strong.
That's very good.
What?
Ophelia, the judgy one.
Saesis, the feely one.
Yum.
Okay. No, we haven't all left yet.
We haven't all left yet. No,
Oh.
there's still the two at the table. Zephyr and Saesis.
So Saesis kind of gets up slowly, and turns to Zephyr and says, "It was very nice to meet you. I look forward to working with you."
Zephyr's like, it was nice to meet you too. Have a good night.
And Saesis just kind of bows and walks out.
So Zephyr's still there, and she gets up, and as she walks over to the bar, where I'm assuming Willow is. Is she there?
Willow is still, she's still kind of keeping an eye on the bar, looking around for patrons and stuff like that. There's not a lot of people in there, so.
Okay. So she walks over to Willow, and as she's doing that, she's going into a pouch that's on the side of her, and she pulls out this small bag that starts rattling or clinking or whatever, and she pulls out a couple of coins and puts it on the counter and says, "I don't think anyone paid, so here you are."
Oh my god, I forgot!
Oh, damn it!
No, it's okay. It's okay. She kind of waves her hand and goes like, "No, the skeleton already paid before you all came in, so it's fine. No need to worry."
Oh, well,
Panic over, everyone. It's fine.
I got water, so it's fine.
uh, Zephyr will shake her head and say, "Keep it anyway as a thank you, and have a good night." And she turns and walks out.
Oh, she smiles at you and goes, "Oh, that's very kind of you. Oh, you have a good night, sweetie." And she pats you on the shoulder as you head out. As you're actually, I'm gonna roll.
Ooh, ambience.
Let's have a look. Okay. None of the goblins talk to you as you leave.
It's fine.
Oh my god, fuck, that's a dragon, Jesus Christ.
Well, you see one of them, like, sort of eyeing you with his mouth open in awe. You are a black dragonborn. Like, that's rare for them to see. Like, dragonborns are a rare species to begin with, and you're of black lineage. Like, it's one of the, it's like black and red are like the two major lineages that most people
Considering
know of.
that black and red dragons are like super anti anything not dragon,
Yeah.
to be born of their lineage is like, wow.
Yeah. And you have these like obsidian, almost pearlescent scales that they just like, whoa, as they're looking. And one of them is kind of like, one of them is staring, and the other two, who are very obviously trying not to stare, one of them just like kicks the other one under the table, and he's just like, fuck, and puts his face in his bucket, like.
That causes Zephyr to jump and like look over and stares at them for a bit before nodding her head slowly and just quickly tries to get out as soon as possible.
We lost an Artie.
As you
Artie
look
will
at
be back in
them.
a
Yeah, we
sec.
lost
It happens
Artie.
to him.
Oh,
It happens
yeah,
to him sometimes. He'll be back, don't worry.
He'll be back in a second.
Okay.
So I guess the goblins didn't like Squid Lady. Well, fine.
The goblins are fucking terrified of Squid Lady. Like, sweet Jiminy Jaminy.
Sad.
Well,
Dear.
as you are walked back to your accommodations by the Leshen, you will notice as you're walking down the quite well hewn like stone streets. As you're going along, once or twice, some people who are walking in the opposite direction see the two of you walking down the street next to each other and go, and like cross the street. At one point, like I'm gonna say it was the fucking troll from the tavern, comes out of an alleyway and rounds the corner and like about like 2 meters distance away from you, comes out of the alley, sees the two of you and goes, oh fuck, and walks back in the alleyway and disappears. just not having it.
I like to imagine like both Leshen and Ophelia give the Ophelia stare that
Yes. Also, we are walking in silence.
there is no speaking.
There is no speaking.
Speaking is
Because
verboten.
And the both
Despite
of you are wearing your veils. Like,
Yeah.
Because despite the fact that she asked for the escort back, she does not feel very comfortable just alone with him.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
Alright, so you are we'll kind of go through the group here. You are walked back to your living accommodations.
Which would be exactly where, dear sir?
They're not far from the palace, like 2 stones throw away from the courtyard in front of the Palace of Falling Leaves. Is a relatively ornate looking, it's almost a tower. Like it's a tall living accommodations, and the levels of it are like living quarters for you and the rest of your pod.
Is
as
it that
well
one?
as- No.
Oh.
This is just, like, it's just a representation. What I've
Okay.
got sort of on the page here.
Is it that one?
Is it that one? No.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like that though, as sort of like a tall tower. And you would know inside there's not only living accommodations for yourself and the rest of your family members, but there's sort of like an educational space. There's a small sort of training space for you to sort of like in a safe environment flesh out your psionic abilities and whatnot.
And there would be a number of guards at the door.
Yeah, at the front of the gate, there are 2 of the Grave Guard standing there at watch. And as you approach, and walk up to the front. They both just sort of turn and look with.
If you could inform the warden of sorts, I can't figure out a name, that I have returned, and if the rest of the pod are available, I would like to speak with them.
And you say this to
The Graveguard.
the Graveguard, and you're asking them to, like, let the people inside know
That I'm back.
that you're home.
Yes.
Oh goodness.
Do they not speak?
They mostly don't.
Okay.
It's just one of them kind of looks over and goes, yes, and then opens the door next to you. And as the door opens, there's like a bell that rings to signify your entrance.
Oh, that's cool. Ophelia just turns back to Leshen and goes, I appreciate the escort back. I assume that those around probably appreciated my being accompanied as well.
To be completely honest, the same could probably be said for me. And he does the same motion that he did before with Circes, and he tips his hat and just walks us back through the street for the rest of the night.
Excellent.
Okay.
Time to be Batman.
So, all right, so going down the list here, as you guys have made your way out for the evening, Mardus, do you head back to the Goblin Complex, to which you are a warden?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. As you make your way to, it's like a little, it's a group of tall buildings that is like a little apartment complex that has like a small courtyard where there are goblins sort of like sitting about playing ball or whatever it is that they're doing. Then as you wander in through the complex, some of the goblins turn to you and go, "Hey, Mardes!" Ah! And one of them comes forward, whom you recognize, the goblin spy, Fibge.
God,
He's here. He's
Did not, sir.
He's Fibge.
I
There's a
can't
voice.
believe it, but also that's amazing.
There is a tiny goblin who's a bit smaller than normal goblins, makes his way out through the crowd and sort of elbows his way to the front. And he goes, "Hey, Big Stompers, good to see you back. How was things?"
Mardus kind of takes a knee in order to appropriately address the goblins. And he smiles and says,
Stressful. It's stressful.
Did you make any friends?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I'm gonna assume colleagues at best.
Did you make any friends? Well, but dun 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 dun.
Yeah. As you say that, he goes, "Well, that's okay. None as good as your good friend Fibge." And then he hops up and like grabs onto one of your horns and sort of swings on it like a monkey bar.
yeah.
I love him.
Mardus allows him to do this, as he has done many times before. And will stand up to full height.
Wee!
I love all of them.
They are all excellent.
I love them.
Yeah, some of them are happy and, you know, are really enjoyed seeing you. You can tell that like your large and imposing figure definitely puts them at ease. So they feel much safer having you there. So what your return to their quarter definitely, like every time that you're around and every time you're kind of keeping watch and stuff like that, folks are generally happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You settle in for the evening?
Yeah, he might explain that. He won't go into too many details just in case it's super confidential, but he'll basically just say that there may be instances where he'll be gone for like possibly days at a time, just to kind of let them know if he's not there and they're wondering where he is. That's why.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna go do jobs, work is work. You know what they say.
Yes. Yes. Thank
I
you.
love
for
I
understanding.
love the after everything they say.
They're very, very good.
Yeah, very good. I love it. I love it.
Oh, okay. As long as you're not gone for too long and forget about your old pal Fibs.
I don't think I could ever forget you, Fibsh.
And he giggles and goes up, "Whoa!" And he swings about a bit on it. He sort of like climbs up on top of your head from your horn and like sort of sits there and giggles to himself, throwing tiny rocks down at the other goblins.
I love them.
They're the best NPC friends.
Okay. As you settle in for the evening, let's go down the rest. Gowl. Do you head back to your people?
Directly. He
I'm going home.
he does not stop anywhere. He
Kicking
he tends
bushes
to-
and shit out of the way.
he goes through the streets. He has the very he has the very audible sound when he walks of like step, clack, step, clack when his cane hits the ground with force. He kind of uses it to like favor his left leg, though he has no limp. He just seems to have developed this walk when he has his cane out. He goes straight back to the Great Root tribe site. Yes, ding, right over there.
Yeah.
He probably would be to the the westmost. The eastmost outskirts. He probably would have a small residence that's nearer to the waterfall, like perhaps within like 200 feet distance. Like you can see it, but he's not like at the water's edge. And he sort of like makes his way through the like structure of all the tents, but he tries not to have too much attention drawn to him.
Ah. As you're making your way along, though, it's on in the evening, so most of the turtle folk have gone to sleep for the evening. But as you make your way through the little village that's there towards your accommodations, which are on the far eastern side, just on the edge of the village, your chief is still standing about in the middle of town, and he notices you as you come by, and he waves to you, and sort of trots his way over to where you are to walk with you for a brief time. As you make your way off to your accommodations. And he looks like that.
He's basically Oogway. He oh, nice. I sound like an air horn.
It me.
Hit me. Air horn. So the
he gives like a
turtle
respectful nod.
The turtle chief of the Deep Root tribe, known as Kuklak, makes his way over to you. And he goes, "Oh, good. You've made your way back from the city. How was your meeting?"
So just for reference, Kuklak?
Yeah, Koolack.
Oh, Kulak. You stuck another K or something in there.
Kulak.
Yeah, Kulak.
Yeah, there you go.
My bad.
Kulak.
Kulak.
It was well enough. The Black King ordered, and so I appeared. There were people about.
Well, yes, as there are wont to be at times. And he sort of like puts a hand on your shoulder sagely, and he goes, I know that you've had some trouble from day to day dealing with some of the other folks, but it makes me proud to see that you're taking on additional responsibilities like this, Scowl. Yes.
You would be the only one.
I think this is a very good opportunity for you to get out and get some experience under your shell, you know?
Experience.
He kind of like gestures to like the scars on his chest. Kind of raises. Well, he's really raising eyebrows. He has no eyebrows. He sort of just cocks his head to the side in a sort of like not incredulous but almost questioning expression.
Well, he kind of moves his hand from his shoulder and gently sort of places a hand over one of the scars that are on your chest. And he goes, well, yes. As you may see these as scars is damage or perhaps some kind of, evil. But this is the sort of things that life does to you. Wretched as they are, you need your scars. It's what makes you who you are. It makes you Gowl. And he smiles a little turtle smile at you.
Is it one of those shaky smiles where it's like,
oh, super shaky? She's almost.
It's grandpa smile. It's grandpa smile.
He's almost.
He's older than me. He's like super
consistently-
old.
Yeah, turtles usually live about 60, 70 years or so. And he's pushing it. So like he's definitely got the perpetually shaky, like bottom heavy turtle smile.
If it is as you say, I will give these other creatures a chance. There is at least 3 intriguing, I suppose. A majority is better than none at all.
His head kind of like raises up more than normal, like sticks his neck out and he goes, oh, you enjoyed the company of some of these people. That's good. Oh, wonderful. And he pats you again on the back of your shell. And I think this will be good for you to get out and meet some new people,
This is more and more like the dad talk where it's like, son, you gotta get out there. You want to meet some fish.
Gotta get out and meet some folk.
He, you know what?
Playing your video games.
Insight check on the old man. 8.
What are you looking for?
Just see how genuine he's being.
Oh, he's being fully genuine.
I mean, with an 8, I can barely tell. But
Well,
I'm going with yeah.
You definitely get the feeling that Kulak cares about you a great deal, despite the fact that you are consistently on the outskirts of your tribe, and some of the tribe's people treat you with a bit of suspicion or distance because of the way that you look differently from the rest of them. But they still treat you with respect because the village elder, Kulak, treats you with respect. And he definitely cares a great deal.
He looks to Kulak and says in Aquan, as you say, old man.
He smiles and nods and goes, yes, I do say, he says back in Aquan.
I believe for people playing the Hunger game, the Aquan is the total language, is it not?
Aquan is the watery language, really.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
a language spoken by
Tritons
turtles
also
and
have-
other...
and Tritons,
other
I think.
Yeah, Tritons.
Tritons, Sahagin, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I
Water-faring
will
creatures.
attempt to play nice, but they... Well, at least 2 of them are undead. And a 3rd is intriguing. Strange, but intriguing.
He nods and smiles at you and goes, well, that's very good to hear. I look forward to hearing great stories about some of these things that you get up to in the next little while. And he nods to you again and then slowly starts trotting back towards the center of the village. He goes, sleep well, good friend.
He calls back in Aquan.
Wake up, man.
Oh, he cares.
Always do.
He shuffles off to his tent and sort of gives, again, that weird, unsettling turtle smile and goes back into his tent.
Awesome. All right. And then there is Blue Leaf. Sisey's Blue Leaf.
Yes.
Do you head home?
Yeah, I guess I do. And I kind of take my time and just kind of like look up at the sky as I'm just like walking. I don't really have anyone to go home to. I just kind of live on my own.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't need to live a place because I don't need to sleep or eat or anything.
Welcome to
I
the
don't
club,
really
buddy.
own a lot of things, but as someone who like what when she was alive, she was, of noble birth, so she's used to like having living quarters. So for her, it just kind of feels like some semblance of what it was like to just be in her old life.
Yeah.
So she just kind of like
Looking up at
goes home slowly and looks up at the sky.
The sky in this evening looks absolutely beautiful. The enchanted ceiling of this massive cavern gives accurate star constellations, and they're bright and they twinkle as you stare at them.
And as she kind of looks up into the sky, like little just tears trail down her cheeks.
Do you dab them away with your goblin handkerchief?
I do.
Yeah! Oh, man, so many feelings. Love it. You may add that to your inventory.
I will. Actually, I would like to do something. I would like to do something with this handkerchief.
Go for it.
So I get back home,
Mm-hmm.
and I decide I'm gonna give this handkerchief a little wash and bring it back to the goblin who gave it to me, nice and clean.
Okay, well, as you get home, you do get a good wash out of it, and it did need a good wash. As it was a handkerchief that was kept by a fucking goblin, so it's not the best. But when you get home and you give it a clean, when you head back to the tavern, like, do you head back that evening?
Yeah, I kind of don't really have anything to like do, or like I said, anyone to answer to, so I just kind of like. I give it a wash, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna maybe this nice goblin is still there.
You head back to the tavern, and there's just the one goblin who's still left at that table. His two other friends have gone home. His fucking regular-sized stein, which is huge for him, is sitting on the table in front of him, and he is asleep on the table.
Okay. So, Societies just folds up the handkerchief nicely and kind of puts it on the table, like, near his head, so that when he wakes up, he sees it.
And the only person that sees you do any of this is the barmaid, which she just smiles and nods at you.
And so I just kind of, I give a little, like a little wave to the barmaid, and I walk the rest of the way home again.
Nice. Oh, that's lovely. And last, but certainly not least, Zephyr Sistrin. Do you make your way back to your home?
I do.
Awesome.
Definitely go straight there.
So the strangely ornate sort of stone temple that is to the south and east of the Black City, much in the same direction as the Turtle Village. You head back, and most of the folk are at this point asleep. But as you're sort of making your way up to the front entrance, the matriarch of the lizard people who live here, whom you've been living with, up until this point, comes out to see you. The matriarch, Gatkik. She comes out. She is a green lizard folk, and is dressed mostly in like bits of sort of handmade rags and stuff, with like roughly hewn sort of tribal jewelry adorning some of her short like ridge horns and stuff across her head and around her neck. And it appears to be made mostly from like a crude gold and sort of chunky, roughly hewn gems and stuff. She got that chunky jewelry. And that jewelry's got that chunk. As you make your way up to the front of it, she sees you there and does a call very similar to like a raptor from Jurassic Park, just like, cool, and then sort of trots over to you happily and goes, "Ah, my little black bean, how are you?" And she pets your head.
Oh.
I'm fine, thanks. How is everything?
Oh, everything's fine. Everybody here is safe, and most of the people are sleeping. How was your meeting? Were there any nice people there?
We didn't really talk much. They were pretty interesting. It's gonna be quite quite the journey to learn about them. That's for sure.
That's good. It seemed very important as the Bone One came to fetch you personally. So I'm very proud of you for you to be making your way in the world like this. This is great. I think this is really important. She gives you like a little pat on the snoot.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Of course. You are my little black bean after all. Have to look after you and the rest of our tribe. A couple of the little yeah, a couple of the kobolds who also live there. For people that are unaware, kobolds are like tiny red dragon people. Like they're really small, sort of lizard folk. They like a handful of them come, sort of like I'm going to say about 4 or 5 of them come hopping out the front door instead of walking when they see you, and they go ooh, and then they make like little noises as they sort of like they coo as they sort of circle around your feet. The kobolds are almost like pets to the lizard folk who live in this temple, because they're like a smaller, much less civilized race. Though they do have the ability to speak in like a broken common. They're very happy to be there, and they're very happy to see you as they sort of like coo and make fun little noises as they hop around your feet and tug at the edge of your cloak. And
They are very smart, though.
I bend down to get closer to eye level with them, and I start like patting them on the head and the back. And, just, hey guys, all okay?
And they like kind of hop around, and one of them, like a lot of them, like kind of come up and just put their hands on your face.
I just
Oh, sweet.
Just put their hands up
I
on your
lean
face.
closer and let them do it, knowing that that's a normal thing that they do, and I
Yeah.
just
It's like a
bend
sign
my
of
head down.
affection. They touch your face, and they coo, and then they hop around and they run back inside the temple.
They're like babies.
Yeah.
Just palm at your face. Ah, friend.
Yeah. Ah, Brian.
They're lizard cats.
Effectively. But yeah, they hop back inside the temple and they go, sleep, sleep, and they run in. And yes, so the matriarch, Gatkik, she motions for you to come along as well. And everybody heads inside for the evening.
sleepy time.
It's a sleepy time. Ophelia, you get home to your tower. Is there anything
Yes.
that you do in specific before heading to bed for the night?
Are all of the rest of the juveniles assembled anywhere?
Most of them are asleep in the large black pool that's in one of the upper levels, where you guys normally rest. And,
Yes.
one of them is still awake, and that is the next eldest to you. She is, because you're in your early 20s, she is 14.
Yes.
So she comes up to you, and she seems excited. She was staying awake, obviously, for you to come back. As you walk into the room with the rest of them asleep in the pool, she's sort of sitting at the edge of the pool, sort of almost drifting off, and then sees you come in and is just like, oh, and gets up and sort of shuffles over to where you are.
So the moment Ophelia walks into the room, she just immediately takes off her veil and is almost just like seems very more relaxed now.
Oh, that's good.
So I'll walk over to the other one. That's the other one. Guess not. Okay, cool.
Wait, what? Sorry, I didn't hear you. You're breaking up a little bit.
Sorry, does the other one have a name?
Does she have a name?
Yes.
Me
Yes,
name.
I'm just looking at. I'm just trying to pull up the list here. My apologies. No, let's not use that. do.
Naming things on the fly, guys. Here you go.
Her name is Unla.
Ula?
Unla, so Unlaa.
Ah, so like umlaut, but without a T.
No, N, not an M.
Okay. Could I trust you to pass word on to the rest?
Of course. She seems actually quite happy to be given the responsibility. She looks up to you a great deal.
The Black King has requested that I go and do some tasks for him for the next little while.
If her mouth could drop open, it does.
Tentacles are just kind of like very
Yeah.
like excitedly curling up.
Yeah, they just like they all kind of suddenly spray out in different directions, like, like in an expression of shock.
Squid emotion.
Yeah, she kind of leans in closer to you, and connects to you psionically, as your people are sort of wont to do on occasion, to sort of maybe not wake the others that are in the pool.
Yes.
And she speaks to you that way, and she's just like, "What kind of jobs?"
Well, at the very first, we are going to be acting as diplomats for the orcs. It's going to be interesting to see how that happens.
Yeah, her brow furrows, and she goes, "Orcs? Do orcs need diplomats? Do orcs have diplomats? How do you diplomat an orc? What do you do?" And she sort of
Do
just
orcs
kind of like
understand diplomacy?
fucking tumbles down a hill immediately, like in her head, just like, wait, how do you even talk to orcs? What do you? Oh my god!
Come back.
Like-
Focus your mind. Focus your mind.
Yeah.
You need to stop getting distracted like this.
Oh, but it's so exciting.
I know it is. But it is because that they don't have diplomats that they need assistance and someone to come in and arrange their matters for them, because the Black King is unhappy with what they are doing.
Oh, and she nods like, "Oh, I get it." It seems
I am
very
not-
important.
I am not going to be around for the next while, so you need to make sure the others are behaving themselves.
She has a very like stern look on her face, and she nods. She goes, "Yeah, you can trust me. I can do it."
So, don't think that I don't know that two of them sneak out every once in a while. They are not to do that while I am not here, because I will not be here to help represent you to the rest of the city.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
To follow the rules. Need to show them how to better behave themselves.
Right.
Some people think we don't belong here, that we haven't earned this place.
Yeah. Some people are scared of us.
That's why it's very important to go out to wear your veils.
Right. You're right. But it itches.
I know it itches, but would you rather your entire head itch because you don't have it anymore?
She swallows hard. Well, I guess. Okay, you make a good point.
It's a good point.
Can I trust you to watch over the rest of them?
She nods. Yes.
Good. Now, get in the pool. It's time to rest.
Okay. And she like waddles over and slithers into the pool and passes out amongst next to the other, like, was it 7 or 10 of the others that are in there with you?
Something like that. So, to kind of describe to people, so basically what she'd be walking into is like a large, completely like black, inky pool, and just kind of like walks into it and almost like sinks in, and that's how the Illithids sleep, suspended in water.
Dope. Waterbeds.
Neat. And
Um,
there's-
Yeah, so Ophelia just kind of takes a moment and watches her, like, sink into the pool. It just kind of, like, looks over the rest of them, and, like, because Unla is about 14 and everyone else is younger. So she just kind of, like, looks over the rest of them, just, like, protectively before she climbs in the pool herself.
Aw. And that's the evening. You guys
Yay.
get to sleep relatively well. Everybody sleeps okay. And in the next morning, you are assembled outside the gates to the Black City. And Chipper, as always, waiting
Oh,
for
yes.
you, is old Benjamin Hyde.
It's our boy.
What a man, what a man.
And as you all sort of make your way up, he goes, "Right, good, yes, nice that you see you all here. I'm happy that all of you have decided to continue with a rate of employment, if you will, yes." So, down and to the west, and he sort of points off, gives you general directions that if you go past the arena and then you hang a right and follow that, and then it'll come to a fork in the road, you hang another right, and that'll take you to the westmost point of the cavern. There's a very large settlement of orcs there. And they are the problem. There appears to be not the chieftain, but a group of orcs within that tribe have begun raiding some of the smaller groups nearby. And that you need to go talk to them about that. So with that, he bows to you very politely, and he says, I'll leave you to it, and I wish you the best of luck today. And he jaunts inside the city happily.
So we are...
Yes.
You guys are here, and you gotta get here.
Cool. So we either have to go through the arena if we want to follow the path, or we go through the woods.
I mean, Saises isn't, like, spoiler alert, she's not really a fighter. So, she's just gonna kinda follow where everyone is bigger and stronger goes.
Ophelia seems to know where she's going, but is hesitant to be at the very front of the group, making sure that her hood is pulled down low, because she's outside the city. Feels slightly uncomfortable. Exposed.
Leshen turns to Mardus and sort of like tinks the like city, like the watchman symbol on him. And it's like, you hold the front as a group and I'll hold the back.
Okay. Sure.
Are you capable of cutting through the forest? It is our fastest way there.
He kind of takes a look at the line of trees. Says,
I'm wondering, actually, if this orc tribe is raiding people, they must be wary of attackers. Would it not be more diplomatic of us to enter via the roads as opposed to through the woods?
Perhaps we could cut the distance and go on to the northwestern road through the trees, but merge onto the save us a lot of time and still have us arrive in which we seek.
That is our best course of action, I'd say.
Kind of looks at the trees. I'm gonna do a nature check to see if I knew. 9 on a nature check. Do I know those side of the woods?
You're not terribly familiar.
Guess who does, big boy?
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's the man named after a forest spirit himself. And Leshen is like, if that's the case, I will lead the party.
Can I roll a history check on the different orc tribes out here?
Yeah, do me a history roll.
History roll 13.
Yay!
13.
Actually, sorry. No, I have proficiency in that. So is that 13 or is that the other one?
It is 13, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
cool.
13. It's a 1d20 plus 6, of which a 7 was rolled. So at 13.
Yep. Okay. 13.
So you know of this tribe, known colloquially as blood drinkers.
Okay.
And they were a very predominant orc tribe upon the surface, and have made a very large settlement of themselves on the west end of this cavern.
How long have they been down here?
They've been down here actually quite a while. They've been down here for a few generations.
Okay. And they've only been raiding other orc settlements, correct?
They've been raiding the other settlements that are in the woods nearest to them. Some of them are orcs. A few of them are smaller species like rat people, and one of them was a kobold settlement.
Okay.
We'll fight you. No, sorry.
Fight you.
Do we have anything that
I'm gonna cut you so bad.
shows that we are part of, or rather we carry the will of the first attendant, Benjamin, and the king?
Leshen tinks the symbol on his hand.
That will have to be good enough, then.
Question, Doc. Has the Leshen had any quarries in this specific tribe?
Had any quarries with them? Not recently. As a
Has
group,
has there been any like hunts that he's had to do with people from that tribe?
no, not yet.
No. No.
Like the people of that tribe, they are definitely a warrior people. So you know them as fighters for sure, but other than that, I mean, they're orcs. Orcs fight. But you haven't had to deal with any of them. Like there haven't been anybody from that particular tribe that you've had to hunt before.
Fair enough. May I? Oh, well, before we left, during my rounds and whatnot, may I have used my urban bounty hunter ear to the ground, in order to like drum up as many contacts as I can who know who I am and know what I do, to basically give me as much information as they can on the people who live in that tribe, and what the recent affairs, because they've been raiding. But is there any like major correlations with that and why they might be doing so?
Why they might be doing so. Ear to the ground. So it's you are in frequent contact with people in the segment of society that your chosen quarries move through. These people might be associated with the criminal underworld, more rough and tumble folks of the streets, or members of high society. This connection comes with in the form of a contact in the city that you visit, a person who provides information about the people and places of the local area. A rat person who lives inside the Black City passed you this information. Basically like a Skaven. And he gave you the information that there appears to be, not the chief, but there appears to be a younger upstart in that place that is turning the tribe against the chief. That
Do you share this information with the party?
I will share this information with the party as we're walking through.
Wonderful.
Because I'm not a diplomat. So people who can talk better than me can work through this.
Doc, can you let us know rough about when we arrive here? It's not allowing me to click for some reason.
Oh, you just click and hold it.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna move through the woods and you're gonna head to that direction. Is that right?
No, I just want to know when we get there. If it's through the woods or through on the road, I'm following everyone. But when we get there, let me know.
Yeah.
I believe the general consensus is cut through to spare time, and then go through the front door to be like, "Hello, we're here. We're presenting ourselves. We're not sneaking in to be diplomatic."
Yeah. We're not those sorts of folks. Then I'm gonna say, you make your way through the woods, starting from the gates here, and you sort of make your way down through the trees, and eventually make your way to that path there, to like this area, to that fork before you need to head up that road. It goes relatively without incident, though. Steve, if you could give me I'm gonna say, was it wilderness check?
Nature, that would be.
Nature. Give me a nature check.
Nature or survival, either or.
Let's say survival. Just moving through the woods.
Can I assist him with that?
Yes.
Big man will probably get a better roll than me.
Jesus.
Oh God!
Wait, no, sorry, that's.
Yeah, no, that's survival.
Oh yeah, no, that is a nat 1.
That's a nat 1 plus 3. And we got a nat 5 plus 2.
Can I try helping?
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
you get
not
into
having
the
it today.
woods, the trees that surround the Black City are in perpetual autumn, and it's a bit strange. So, like, the hunter and the turtle in the front are first like, fucking branch, what the, was this always here? Like, God, fuck. And
I skulk more through these woods, the actual woods, than I do the ones around Autumeth.
yeah. So as you get into the trees proper, though, Zephyr takes front, and she's actually quite skilled by the looks of it, of moving through the trees without disturbing any of the brush. And if you follow in her steps, it's actually quite easy to kind of like move around, and this is a good spot to step right here, and and then duck under this branch, and don't get hit by that. And just by sort of following her motions and her movements, you can get through the woods with relatively little resistance. You eventually make your way. Oh, what's that?
Go ahead. No, it's fine.
As you're making your way to the to that sort of fork in the road on that section, you do come across a small village of rat people who are in the woods, most of them tending their wounded.
Okay. As we approach, so Ophelia at this point is in the back, kind of back-ish of the group, trying to be inconspicuous. But as we start seeing people, she's going to take a moment and step back and cast Disguise Self.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Hey!
Okay.
So she takes a moment and says a few words, a few hand gestures, and then suddenly her skin turns green. Her head tentacles, you can see kind of her hood almost sink down a little bit, and she actually takes off her veil, and it is replaced by orcish tusks.
Cool.
Her clothes change to kind of like, it's still dress-like, but it changes to kind of like scraps of leather and everything, but is still not carrying any weapons. But she's wearing kind of like a vest, an apron, and just like linens and things. Still relatively well dressed, but definitely as an orc person. Yes.
Okay. Good. This is fantastic. Yeah, so the spell takes hold, and you take on the appearance of an orcish woman.
Yes.
Wearing similarly the clothes that you were wearing before. And yeah, do you stop to investigate the rat folk at all, or do you just move on?
No. I approach them at a distance and slowly, making sure that
They kind of nod to you as you approach. They don't seem too scared, as they can see your group is not made entirely of orcs at the moment. That's right. First spell of the campaign, Disguise Self.
Ooh.
Pretty good.
It's pretty dang good.
Do they seem apprehensive as I approach? Kind of
They do.
Ahead of.
They do seem a bit frightened. None of them have been killed, but many of them have been very seriously wounded. A small shaman amongst their people sort of waddles about with the stick and is attempting healing magic on some of them to close up any wounds and whatnot. Many of their small like stick huts that they've built have been like sacked and damaged. Some of them like kicked and knocked over, and much of their food stores have been stolen.
Okay. I approach the shaman.
Okay.
Again, very slowly, making sure that my hands are out, that I am not holding any weapons, make very clear I am not a threat, as much as I can.
And as you approach, he turns to you and goes, "Ah, you must be from a different tribe."
Yes. Yes, we are. I've heard of disturbances in the area. I wish to discuss. We aren't happy to the rest of the area.
Okay. And he nods and he like sort of sagely makes his way in a little circle around the town, and then comes back to you and is just like, "Well, yes, the blood drinkers attacked us in the night just last eve and made off with much of our supplies. So we're just doing what we can to recover. We're but simple folk here, and we thought it would be safer than this."
Have they taken anything else other than just supplies?
Food and some of our weapons, simple swords, really, and a few of our others as slaves.
Do you know where they themselves?
I'm sorry, what was that? You broke up there.
Sorry. Do you know where they hide themselves?
Oh, they don't hide. Those blood drinkers, and he shakes a tiny paw angrily. He goes, "They went back to their village with all their things they took from us. Buh."
We wish to parley with the king. Just pauses there for a second.
Oh, so you said you wish to parley on behalf of the king?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And he goes, "Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that the king took notice so quickly. It's very helpful. Thank you." And he...
If you could point us in their direction, so.
Oh, yes,
Make
of
sure.
course.
Go ahead.
And he points to the west. And he's like, "Yeah, it's that way. It's back towards their main village."
I'm just gonna roll. No, I'm gonna end the conversation first. So.
Of course. And he like nods to you and is very thankful, and he goes back to healing some of the other people there, shaking his stick at him.
As I'm kind of walking, is the rest of the group still kind of like off to the side, or what everyone else do?
Lashin is keeping at the front of the like past the encampment, just looking out further on the road, just to see if anyone like walks forward or whatnot. If anything else is coming down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Zephyr's still where she was, like close to the front, so she's like close to where the rat people are, but she like hasn't moved or anything.
Okay. So as I kind of make my way back to where the group is standing, then I'm just going to look around the village to see if I can notice anything. What would you like as a roll?
And give me is investigation on there?
Sorry, you broke up again. Investigation?
Investigation, yeah, is that one?
Yep. Well, okay.
That's not bad. I mean, it's even Stevens. It's right in the middle.
That's a 4.
I mean, it's +6. I mean, you're
Yep.
So you got a 10. You doing an investigation around the town. I mean, it's pretty plain to see. They came in from the west. They immediately they hit the village hard and fast. There's big footprints everywhere where they trod through the trees and the mud, smashing things over and then dragging everything that they could grab back in that direction through the trees.
Okay.
Gal sort of he stays to the outskirts, but he kind of looks about the village, and he's basically trying to ascertain if he's read about anything to do with like rat people villages, and if there's any animosity between usually like orcs and smaller races like this.
Not that you've heard. I mean, orcs are by nature very fighty people. Like they're definitely warriors, like killers bred and born. But it's not something that you've seen normally, especially not within Autumeth. Like a lot of the races that live here, the most animosity that they show towards each other is a bit of distant disdain. Or perhaps a look that they'll exchange on occasion, but that's about it. Like them showing open warring aggression towards each other within the tomb is new.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's good. Yep.
Okay. Do we do anything else with the rat village, or do we continue to the orcs?
So I walk back to the group, just kind of, now looking very much like an orc. Is there anything else we need to do here?
I suggest we press on.
We now possess multiple counts of evidence for what they have done. If they wish to try to reply with diplomacy with force, then we can stand to try them.
We have to be careful, because they are still residents of the tomb. And we are not from. Wouldn't want to get the death graveguard involved.
All right. As you guys continue along, you eventually make your way to the to that crossroad, and then head your way up that path. Approaching the Orcish settlement, just on the edge of the Orcish settlement there, as you approach, there is a very large kerfuffle happening in the center of that village square. So you see like a lot of sort of savage-looking buildings that have been erected from wood and bone, much like you see on the map here. There's a couple of like small huts, a large hut near the center of the town, and there's like tanning racks and stuff that have been set up and whatnot, where people cut meat from the things they've been hunting in the woods, and where they fashion basic weaponry and clothing and stuff. And you see standing at the center of the town, there's an argument, like a yelling argument that's happening between two very imposing looking orcs. One of them clearly older than the other. The one orc, which you can visually identify easily as the chief, is standing there with like long white hair, and he's got beads and bones woven into it, and some white face paint that he's got on, very tribal stuff that he wears. Looks a lot like Sarfang from World of Warcraft.
Okay.
So he's standing there arguing with another orc who looks like so. A younger, angrier looking fellow, who you can tell is of the next generation or possibly 2 generations down.
Orcs looking angry, never.
Yeah. Now you can see behind the younger of the two, there are several other younger orcs as well, so young men, and they are also like spattered with blood, carrying axes and swords and spears, adorned with their basic armor that they wear, and behind them as well is sacks of food and supplies and a few wooden cages with rat folk inside of them.
Oh,
Now that's
Yeah.
a crime, and that's a bad one.
That's a paddling. And the one who stands at the front is having this screaming match with the chieftain. And the chieftain is yelling back at him, "You bring this evil upon our people. They show us peace, they show us prosperity, and this is how you thank them." And the younger one beats his chest and says, "We were once an honorable people. We hunted, we raided, we show our strength. Now we have become weak. Look at us!" And he puts his hands in the air at the rest of the tribe. Now, the younger man then turns and sees the 6 of you standing on the edge of the village. And he goes, "And what of you? What do you bring to us?" And that is where we will end our game today.
I was getting myself all psyched up to be like, okay, orc, fuck.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. All right.
I've been blue balled.
That's how a DM do it, oftentimes.
I feel like that's gonna be everyone, every time.
Yeah. Speaking as a DM myself, gotta love a cliffhanger.
You gotta love a good cliffhanger. So, we will be announcing when we do our next game. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out. This has been a huge amount of fun, and I'm hoping that everybody has been enjoying this as much as I have. This was a great time running this, and I'm hoping that we can do this again at some point soon.
We gotta keep going. My brother just came on the chat.
Your brother just comes up and is like, "Boo, is that your brother? Fucking cherry pie?"
Yeah.
Fucking, well,
I'm
that's,
like,
that's
wow,
what
really?
happens. That's what happens, buddy. You come in late. It's a 7 to 10 show. You showed up
Yeah.
late. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But
You're just gonna
He was home.
God.
Was home. I don't know what his excuse was.
yeesh.
Do
But
not
yes,
worry.
we're gonna be announcing our next game that we're gonna be doing on Discord. As usual, Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. We're gonna be doing regular gaming streams, but we're gonna try to do every other Friday or so doing this as availability is present. But yes, we will be announcing on our Discord link below the stream on when we're going to be doing our next thing. So until then, I have been your game master, Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terwat. We are joined, of course, going down the list here. We've got Steve the Seregios.
Hello and goodbye, everyone.
As Leshen, we got ArticulateT as Martus.
It was a pleasure being here.
We got Ninja with a Soul Patch as Gowl Embrace.
Grandpa Turtle.
We got SassElf as Ophelia.
The sexy squid.
Sexy Squid Lady. We got J-Nerd as Zephyr.
Peace out from the Black Bean.
Black Bean. Oh. And of course we
No,
have
there's a lot to find out about that.
we got Cassie D20Love Chew as Ziaces?
Sciaces.
I'm gonna never get that right, and I'm sorry in advance.
If people are having trouble saying or remembering the name, Saya will do.
There we go.
Nicknames.
I will also accept Saya. But yeah.
Now, one thing before we all go, I just want to ask everyone in the audience if you would like to post up in, let's say, the tabletop chat, what you probably your favorite moment of the game was, any reviews, and just give us your general idea as to how this went, because it was the first one of many, and changes can and probably will be made. But it's always good for us to know how you guys are things on the other side.
And if I may add as well, Doc, I'm going to be making sure to, when the next game is announced, also my Discords over on Soul Patch Tonight will also be posting a similar update to have people come on down to see us all on here.
Woo!
So, be helping you out there on that one. So if any of you guys are here from Soul Patch Tonight, come on down. It's going to be a crazy time with Grandpa Turtle and the rest. So, see you guys.
Is that what it's called now? Is Grandpa Turtle and the rest?
Grandpa Turtle and the rest.
It better not be.
Oh, it's not gonna be. It's probably
Because you are one of the few people in the group that actually has a.
There's that. But yeah, I'll make sure to cross promote this so that everyone gets the word out to come on down for Doc's awesome D&D times.
Yeah, if you guys are enjoying it, share it on social media, and until next time, my brave citizens, we will see you on the next live stream.
Sweet dreams.